Chapter 3090. Zheng Qing's soul hid in the huge body. Soon, he opened his eyes and stood up, looking down at the Grand Uncle. The Grand Uncle stood in front of the huge body like a black ant. He wasn't even an ant. At most, he was just a black dot. His voice was deafening. It feels so good to have a body. Zheng Qing raised his foot and stepped on the Grand Uncle. Without a body, I can't use many methods. I have to thank you for giving me a body. It's easy to run. Zheng Qing's body had been guarded by the Grand Uncle. Zheng Qing couldn't use his own body. The Grand Uncle pulled out his gun and used it to block the huge foot. Zheng Qing couldn't step on it anymore. No matter how much strength he used, he couldn't kill the Grand Uncle. What did you do to my body? You sealed my body. Zheng Qing roared. The sound waves shattered the fragments and dust in the void. No wonder the Grand Uncle pressed him into his body. He wasn't afraid of him having a body at all. The Grand Elder exerted his strength and directly pushed away the huge foot above his head. Zheng Qing was staggered by this force and almost fell down. Zheng Qing stabilized his body and checked himself. His power was controlled. There was a huge seal that controlled the world in his body. He couldn't draw power or mobilize the power in his body. Zheng Qing shrank his body to the same size as the Grand Uncle. He grabbed the Grand Uncle's collar. You're really so heartless. I didn't guard against you at all last time and you put me in the law of nothingness. Now you're doing it again. Even if I die, I won't let you get what you want. The Grand Uncle said, then you can die. Why should I die? Zheng Qing spat at the Grand Uncle. You're really disgusting. Do you think I can't do anything just because you sealed my power? The Grand Uncle looked at him indifferently. He watched him fight like a trapped beast. He was sharp, roaring, questioning, and desperate. Zheng Qing turned and ran, but his body was frozen. He couldn't even lift his feet. A huge force was suppressing his body. He was frozen. Even his clothes couldn't move. Zheng Qing sneered and muttered something. An inexplicable force poured into his body from all directions. These strands of power were like threads that entered Zheng Qing's body. Just as Ning Shu was about to complete a quest and exchange for fasting pills from the exchange store, he suddenly felt something tearing at his soul. Ning Shu's soul power was rapidly draining away. Startled, he hastily set up a magic array to prevent his soul power from being sucked away. What's going on? Although there was a formation covering Ning Shu, his soul power was still being extracted. The world tree took root tightly, grabbing the spreading soul power. The imprint between his eyebrows stabilized Ning Shu's soul, while the law of earth imprint suppressed his soul. With the cooperation of several parties, Ning Shu's soul only slowed down its disappearance, but it was still disappearing. At the same time, all the mermaids that were flying in the sea had their souls sucked out in an instant. They lost their vitality and floated in the sea, motionless. The beautiful mermaids were instantly wiped out. Not a single one was left. The soldiers who were besieging the city suddenly died in front of their opponents. Large groups of soldiers fell down. In an instant, both sides were wiped out. No one was left alive. Large-scale deaths occurred in many planes. Anyone who came into contact with Zheng Qing had their souls sucked away one by one. Their souls turned into threads, passed through the plane wall, headed toward the void, and merged with Zheng Qing. They became the power of Zheng Qing. Ning Shu was still struggling to hold on, checking her body over and over again. This scene was too familiar. In the past, almost all of her soul power had been sucked away by Zheng Qing. Zheng Qing was extracting her soul power again. He must have done something to her body to be able to extract her soul power from a place far, far away. She thought it had nothing to do with Zheng Qing. The battle between the Taishu and Zheng Qing had nothing to do with her. But now it seemed that it wasn't over yet. What exactly was it? Ning Shu checked her soul over and over again, but she couldn't find anything. Was it because she was too weak? Her soul power was still dissipating. Even with the help of the laws and the World Tree of Laws, the other side was still slightly better in this tug-of-war. Her soul was getting weaker and weaker. Ning Shu sneered. She followed the suction and jumped in the direction of the suction. Zheng Qing, who had absorbed a lot of souls, could move his body now. With his soul power as his power, he gained freedom and used his soul power to break the seal in his body. The Taishu looked indifferently at Zheng Qing, who was fighting like a cornered beast. He wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Only by wearing down Zheng Qing's will and pushing him into despair again and again could the law of nothingness successfully merge with Zheng Qing. Zheng Qing was wary of the Taishu while breaking the seal in his body. But this seal couldn't be broken in a short time. Suddenly, a sharp blade pierced through Zheng Qing's heart. The Taishu narrowed his eyes. Zheng Qing lowered his head and looked at the sharp blade. He looked back at the person who had pierced his body and sized her up. After a while, he seemed to remember. "It's you. I almost couldn't recognize you. You've become different." Zheng Qing didn't seem to feel the pain of the sharp blade piercing his body. Instead, he sneered and broke the blade with his hand. "This kind of thing can hurt me?" Zheng Qing sneered. The Taishu just watched. He didn't say anything or stop the fight between the two. Ning Shu also sneered. "I don't know if it's useful or not. After all, things like soul poison don't seem to have any effect on an existence like you." She had taken the risk of contaminating her own soul by smearing soul poison on the blade. When Ning Shu looked at people, his black eyeliner slightly raised, giving people a feeling of fierce disdain. Zheng Qing suddenly laughed. "Little puppies can bite people. This kind of soul poison is just like a mosquito bite to me. It's useless." Because they were close, Ning Shu's soul power drifted towards him. Ning Shu stretched out a vine and tied Zheng Qing up. Zheng Qing sneered. "What harm can these methods do to me? Your appearance here is quite unexpected. I thought you would think of a way to save your life and not come here to fight with your life. What made you go all out all of a sudden?" Zheng Qing looked at Ning Shu seriously. He seemed to be really curious about this question and looked like he was seriously asking for an answer. Ning Shu condensed a blade in his hand. He flicked his hair and smiled. It was fierce and beautiful. "I'll die sooner or later. I've said it before. I won't let myself be wronged again. Even if I have to die, I'll dig out a piece of flesh from your body. Life is just one death. Death is eternal." Chapter 3091. If you want my life, I'll have to fight with my life on the line. Ning Shu raised her head and grabbed her collarbone. She pulled out a red mark that connected to her soul. Her collarbone caved in. Zheng Qing smiled. His clothes fluttered and his fine black hair fluttered, shaking away the vines that wrapped around his body. This strength passed through the vines and into Ning Shu's body. The wood law's imprint between her thumb and forefinger made a cracking sound as cracks appeared on it. "Why don't you take a look at your own strength and bark in front of me?" Zheng Qing said as he attacked the seal on his body. For Zheng Qing, it was just a toy that appeared to relieve boredom midway. This toy could also distract the Grand Elder. The more chaotic the situation was, the better. If he got close, he wouldn't have to spend a lot of energy to extract her soul. "Little puppy, you have a lot of resentment towards me." Zheng Qing looked at her. His facial features were gentle, unlike the Grand Elder's fierce and cold appearance. He was very delicate. He was like a naughty child who was teasing a dog or watching an ant bare its fangs and brandish its claws. He had a kind of high and mighty disdain. "It's not resentment. I thought some things could be over. Even if you took away my soul power, I'll admit to what I did before. But now, you still want my life." Ning Shu said indifferently. She didn't have any resentment or anger towards Zheng Qing. The only thing left was to fight with her life. If she could live, then she would live. If she couldn't, then she would turn herself into a sharp blade and pierce Zheng Qing's body. At least, she would make him feel pain for a while. The law of prophecy in her hand was boiling hot. It seemed to feel something and wanted to escape from Ning Shu's hand. When it found that it couldn't, it sank deep into Ning Shu's palm. Ning Shu stroked the small spoon. This should be the law imprint that she had spent the shortest time with. Comprehending these things was to become stronger. If she didn't use it now, when would she use it? Wasn't using her life to protect these things putting the cart before the horse? Ning Shu raised his hand. The red whistle spun rapidly in Ning Shu's palm. Ning Shu said in a low voice, his words rippling through the void. "With 3/4 of my soul power, I foresee that you will fall into the law of nothingness and will never be able to rise again. I curse you to suffer the pain of being devoured and assimilated by the law of nothingness every day. Although it was called a prophecy, it was more like a curse. A prophecy could predict what would happen in the future. Instead, it used the power of prophecy to make the prophecy come true. The spoon spun faster and faster. In the end, it exploded with a bang and turned into specks of starlight. They converged into a beam of light and shot towards Zhengqing. Zhengqing calmly looked at the beam of light shooting towards him. With a wave of his sleeve, the beam of light dissipated, turning into specks of light and disappearing. Don't use these childish methods on me. Because he had lost 3/4 of his soul power, Ningxu's soul power was now very weak, and it was still being absorbed by Zhengqing. She smiled slightly. Her somewhat transparent face was full of smiles. Whether it works or not, you'll only know after you try it. Also, are you sure it doesn't work? Even if the power of prophecy didn't enter your body, those specks of light still landed on your body. Perhaps this power wasn't very strong. In fact, to Zhengqing, it was like a speck of dust that would disappear with a pat. However, as long as the time was right, it might be the last straw that broke Zhengqing's back. Although she might not be able to see it. Zhengqing tilted his head and looked at him. His delicate face was full of confusion. What happened to you? That dog that only knew how to hide in a corner and whimper. No matter what happened, it would silently endure it. At most, it would bark twice and become obedient after being kicked by others. Now, it bared its sharp teeth, bringing with it a sense of sharpness. It was about to bite someone. Ningxu said, "A cornered dog will jump over a wall. A cornered rabbit will bite." As Ningxu spoke, he removed the law of earth imprint from his wrist. Zhengqing suddenly laughed as if she had seen the funniest joke in the world. Although you have a bit of a temper, you're still as naive and ignorant. These methods of yours, what power of laws? Don't forget where I was born. Zhengqing pointed at the motionless grand uncle. There are no laws in our bodies. Our bodies are the laws themselves. You actually used this kind of power to deal with me. Zhengqing looked relaxed on the surface, but he secretly sped up, breaking the seal. Only grand uncle was his opponent here. Grand uncle was watching from the side. He knew too well what grand uncle wanted to do. He just wanted to humiliate him over and over again. Midway, such an amusing existence appeared. Interesting. Ningxu said, "Oh, thank you for reminding me." Ningxu put the law of earth imprint back on his wrist and asked, "Since the power of laws can't deal with you, what kind of power can? Can laws do it?" Zhengqing narrowed his eyes. "Are you that dependent on me? You want to kill me, but you still have to ask me questions?" Ningxu's soul was already very transparent. She still had a smile on her face. "You know that I don't have much soul power left. Before I die, I have to see you in pain. It won't be a waste of the power I worked so hard to obtain." When it came to death, there was no fear in her tone. There was only calmness. Zhengqing felt that she was really different. "No one can kill me," Zhengqing said. Ningxu looked at grand uncle and asked, "Not even the judge?" Ningxu, like a lady from an ancient family, bowed elegantly to grand uncle. "Please deal with Zhengqing. Since Zhengqing is the key to forming the Sea of Laws, it doesn't matter if he's alive or dead. Forming the Sea of Laws requires his body. It has nothing to do with whether he's alive or not. If he's dead, just throw his body into the law of nothingness. It can also form the Sea of Laws. If he's alive, his will of existence will slow down the assimilation of the law of nothingness." Ningxu actually didn't understand why Zhengqing should be soaked in the law of nothingness alive. It would be the same if he was dead, unless grand uncle didn't kill him. Being swallowed and assimilated by the law of nothingness was very painful. His body and mind had to endure this pain. In the end, his consciousness dissipated and became a part of the law of nothingness. Zhengqing would no longer exist in this world. Ningxu said, "As long as you kill him, I'm willing to pay any price, even if it's my life." Zhengqing's pupils constricted. He looked at Ningxu. "He's my brother. No matter how bad our relationship is, It's not up to an outsider like you to ask him to kill someone. Even if Grand Uncle wants to kill me, it's him who wants to kill me. It's not up to you to speak. Ning Shu nodded. That's right. Whether he wants to kill you or for other reasons, as long as he kills you, it's what I want to see. It was just to tell Grand Uncle that killing Zheng Qing was the best choice. Chapter 3092. Ning Shu now understood what the Abyssal Prefect meant when he said he was reluctant. Clearly, it was best for Zheng Qing's body to be soaked in the law of nothingness. Even if she died, she would not run around. However, the Grand Uncle wanted Zheng Qing to be soaked alive. Even though Zheng Qing would suffer a lot of pain. There were only two situations. Either he did not want Zheng Qing to die, which would be painful, but he was still alive. Or he had a deep hatred and had to use this method to torture her. Moreover, the torture would not be for 1 or 2 years. It would be tens of thousands of years with no end in sight. Her soul was already transparent. Although she was lucky that she did not die in Zheng Qing's hands immediately, she would eventually die in his hands. As for asking the Grand Uncle to kill Zheng Qing, it was just to disgust him. Ning Shu was very calm. He did not have any resentment. She was just a piglet that had been fattened up. It was just time to slaughter her. The Grand Uncle was indifferent to the two's dispute. He was also indifferent to Ning Shu's request. Ning Shu did not know what he meant. The corners of his trench coat fluttered slightly. Behind him was the endless dark void. It made his face as white as a sheet of paper. He stood there and waited for the seal in Zheng Qing's body to be broken. He then moved to suppress Zheng Qing's body once more, sealing the seal within Zheng Qing's body. Zheng Qing looked at the Grand Uncle with resentment. What do you want? If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to cut me, then cut me. Is there any meaning in teasing me like this? He did not know how much soul power he had used to reopen the seal. In the end, he had to do it again. Where was he going to get soul power? Could it be that absorbing the power of the world in his body would harm his body? Unless it was a last resort, Zheng Qing would not harm his body to obtain power. Moreover, if he damaged his body, he would only die faster. He hated the Grand Uncle to death. Bastard. The person he hated the most in his life was this bastard. This bastard. When they were still in the Law Sea, he had imagined the outside world with him. In the end, he had turned his back on him. When he had climbed out of the Law Sea naked, he had said that he wanted to see the world together. That bastard. Ning Shu burst into laughter. Only the Grand Uncle was treated as an equal by the Minister of Justice. Ning Shu pressed down on the mark between his eyebrows. I heard that the laws are higher than the laws. Since the laws cannot deal with you, then let's use the laws. Ning Shu muttered to himself, I have to hurry. My soul is about to dissipate. Zheng Qing looked at the mark that was emitting starlight. Why are you staring at me and biting me? Didn't Senior Uncle kill you many times? You should kill him too. Ning Shu shook his head. I can't kill him in my current situation. To me, killing either of you would have the same effect. I can only focus on one person, so I chose you. Not to mention too, he couldn't even kill one of them. He could only go all out and inflict pain on one of them. Zheng Qing seemed to have a sudden realization. So that's how it is. I've had enough bickering with you. A dog came over to make a fuss. It's time to scram. Then, Ning Shu's remaining soul force was completely absorbed. Her figure was already transparent. Ning Shu's face was solemn. The white mark in his hand slowly turned black. It was pure black and carried a thick aura of death. Ning Shu held the mark and rushed toward Zheng Qing. Under the power of the laws, Ning Shu penetrated Zheng Qing's body. The black mark stuck to Zheng Qing's body and gradually imprinted into it. What was the most powerful thing? Death was the most powerful thing. Life was great, and death was terrifying. Nothing could escape death and decay. Ning Shu smiled. His soul was full of cracks. He looked at Zheng Qing, who was shrouded in the aura of death, and was very satisfied. He didn't waste his life fighting. It was just that he didn't see the tragedy of the Sea of Laws collapsing. He died so early. Zheng Qing dug out a piece of flesh from his body. There was a mark on this piece of flesh. Even though the flesh was dug out, The black thing had penetrated deep into his body. He turned his head to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu stretched out his hand, and the mark returned to his hand. It disappeared in a flash. Even if he died, he would find a place to die elegantly and not in front of Zheng Qing. The Grand Elder made his move. He extended a sword and cut off one of Zheng Qing's arms. This arm was shrouded in the black aura of death and quickly corroded, turning into dust and disappearing. Zheng Qing's face was extremely ugly. It was really ugly to lose an arm. The Grand Elder said indifferently, "If your body is corroded by death, it will be useless." Zheng Qing sneered. "It's useless. It's good that it's useless." The Grand Elder said, "How does it feel to be injured by an ant? Zheng Qing, you're getting more and more useless." Before Zheng Qing could finish speaking, he was grabbed by the Grand Elder. In a flash, they arrived in front of a huge pool. This pool was made of star stones. In the void, one couldn't see the end of it. The Grand Elder directly threw Zheng Qing in. Zheng Qing struggled in the law of nothingness with a painful expression. He endured the pain of being swallowed and assimilated. However, he was suppressed by the seal above his head and couldn't leave the law of nothingness. He used his only hand to hammer the surface of the water and shouted the Grand Elder's name hoarsely. "Why are you doing this to me?" The Grand Elder stood in the sky and didn't speak. He watched as Zheng Qing's struggle calmed down. Zheng Qing raised his head and looked at him. "Grand Elder, I curse you." The Grand Elder nodded. "Do as you wish. Curses are something that weaklings do. Do you care about that ant cursing you?" Of course, he didn't care. He was already like this. Couldn't he just have some fun with his mouth? The Grand Elder left in the sky, leaving Zheng Qing in pain. Zheng Qing, who had lost an arm, couldn't obtain the energy of the Law Sea to regrow it. In the law of nothingness, he had to maintain the appearance of a one-armed hero. Ning Shu's ears were filled with this sound. His soul was already full of cracks. It would shatter with a light touch. After escaping back to the system space, Ning Shu stood in the system space. He thought about who he should give the peerless martial arts to if he died. Who should he give the world to? There was also the world of reincarnation. There was also the 9-Palace Mountain in the world of reincarnation. A new world of reincarnation was born. If he died, wouldn't it perish along with his death? Ning Shu opened his hand and looked at the black water droplet imprint. This was good stuff. Death was the ultimate mystery. He was very satisfied to be able to make Zheng Qing feel pain. Ning Shu's heart ached to give this to someone else. There were even more cracks on his soul. Ning Shu felt that if it weren't for the imprint and the world tree, he would have been blown away by the wind. He had to deal with these things before he could die. He had to give it away. For a moment, Ning Shu didn't know who to give it to. Chapter 3093. After absorbing all the stored soul power, he still couldn't resist the collapse of his soul. His roots were already broken, so it was useless to absorb more soul power. Ning Shu couldn't even open the chat system now because his soul was transparent and had no power. He went to the Time City. Ning Shu dragged his collapsing soul to the Time City. He had some revolutionary friendship with the Chong Sam man, so it was suitable to give him some things. He asked him to help him contact one. Since one didn't have any rules, he would give her one and let her become a big boss. It wouldn't be a disgrace to this rule. He also gave the imprint of the law of wood and the law of earth. And the world tree. Yes, the peerless martial arts. The peerless martial arts were a bomb. Even if he gave it to others, no one would want it. The world of reincarnation was not bad. She hoped that someone would treat it well. And the skeleton that she had just made was also made by her painstakingly. She hoped that the person who took it over would continue to cultivate it. The Chong Sam man was richer than her, so he shouldn't be as poor as her. Ning Shu walked into the restaurant and said to the waiter, "I'm looking for your boss." The waiter was speechless. Where was she? Ning Shu said again, "Please call your boss. I have something to tell her." The waiter informed the Chong Sam man. The Chong Sam man came downstairs and asked, "Who is looking for me?" The waiter said, "I don't know." Ning Shu said, "It's me." The Chong Sam man furrowed his brows and looked at Ning Shu, who was almost invisible. With a face full of surprise, he asked in shock, "You're really different every time. Why is it this time?" Ning Shu said, "I'm going to die. This time, I'm really done for. I have something to tell you." The Chong Sam man sat down. "You want to tell me your last words? Your soul is so weak. Hurry up and absorb some soul power. Stop talking." Ning Shu shook his head. "I can't absorb soul power. My soul origin has collapsed." The Chong Sam man said, "So, why is it this time?" Ning Shu laughed. "You might not believe me if I tell you this, but I've killed someone at the level of an inquisitor, and I paid with my life." The Chong Sam man was speechless. "Are you out of your mind? Tell me, why are you looking for me?" The Chong Sam man said. Ning Shu stretched out his hand, and the world tree appeared in his palm. The world tree had already withered. When the soul dissipates, take this world tree. It seems that we found it together. The man in the Chong Sam looked at the tree of world. It's grown quite well. It's just that it's withered. When it leaves, it'll be very painful. Instead of bickering with me here, why don't you save yourself? The man in the Chong Sam looked at Ning Shu seriously. "Although I don't know why you seem to be in an accident all the time, we should try to save you if we can. As for your things, I'll definitely take them away when you're really dead. It'll be a waste not to take them." Ning Shu smiled. It was probably the most relaxed smile he had ever had since becoming a mission enforcer. "Although you can't find a girlfriend, you're really a good person." Chong Sam man. "Who says you can't find a girlfriend?" Ning Shu suddenly understood why the Chong Sam man's girlfriend chose to die. Immortality didn't exist. When it was time to die, it would die. Ning Shu felt that he was probably waiting for death in a Buddhist land. It didn't matter if there was reincarnation or not. So what if there wasn't reincarnation? It didn't matter. "You're still laughing? What's so funny? Have you lost your mind?" The man in the Chong Sam frowned. "If you don't have the power of the soul, I can lend you some. But you'll have to return it." "Thank you." Ning Shu thanked him and wanted to pull out the world tree. The world tree was rooted in the soul. With such a pull, Ning Shu's soul shattered even faster. "Hurry up and rest. This isn't suicide. If the world tree leaves, you'll be dead too." The man in the Chong Sam used his folding fan to press down Ning Shu's hand. But he couldn't hold it down. The fan pierced through Ning Shu's hand. "I'll help you ask Elder Chi if there's any way. Just you wait. I'll be damned if I believe you." The man in the Chong Sam walked out of the restaurant. Ning Shu didn't think that there would be a way. He was very clear about his situation. He was terminally ill and couldn't be saved. Ning Shu opened his hand. The black water droplet mark was pure black and reflected light. Ning Shu looked at the floating mark. It was good to fall into the embrace of death. Ning Shu used his remaining soul to jump into the black mark like a moth to a flame. Instead of waiting for his soul to dissipate, it was better to merge with the mark and return to death. The man in the Chong Sam came back and saw that the person was gone. He pulled the waiter and asked, "Where is he? Where's the soul that was about to die?" I didn't notice. He should have left." The waiter was busy serving customers and didn't notice a transparent soul. The man in the Chong Sam frowned and opened the chat system. There was no reply from the other side. What was he doing? Didn't he ask him to wait for him to come back? He couldn't have finished playing, right? The man in the Chong Sam sighed, but it was just a sigh. He had seen too many deaths on this path. It was normal for the people he was familiar with to disappear and cease to exist. Grand Uncle stood on the Sea of Law. The seawater of the Sea of Law was black and was slowly drying up. The seawater became more and more viscous. The Sea of Law emitted a decaying aura. It was like an old mother moaning. Nothing could stop it from withering away. Grand Uncle squatted down and scooped up the seawater. The seawater flowed through his fingers, leaving behind some unknown black impurities in his palm that emitted a stench. The corpses of the insects that were once floating on the surface of the sea were rotting inside. No one knew whether it was the corpses that contaminated the Sea of Law, or if the corpses could really provide energy for the Sea of Law. No one knew, but they couldn't do nothing. Where did Grand Uncle go? Why isn't he back to change shifts? Uncle frowned. I feel that the atmosphere isn't right. Something happened. And he silently dealt with the star stones. Contact someone else to change shifts. Can't that little girl deal with it alone? Contact her. She'll be fine if you coax her more. Don't always give people a hard time. A straight man like you is the least liked by girls. Uncle said as he opened the chat system and contacted her. However, there was no reply for a long time. The feedback from the main system was that this person wasn't online and wasn't in the state of doing missions. That? Uncle raised his eyebrows. That's too fast. A meteor has fallen. Looks like we have to continue dealing with it. These people are too lazy now. They only do things that are easy. This won't do. We have to force them. And can you stop talking? Right, I heard that one of your soldiers is husband and wife with that girl. Do you want to tell him that his wife is dead? Uncle said, and he looked at him from the corner of his eyes. Did you gossip about a soldier? Chapter 3094. The man in the Cheongsam asked the waiter to prepare a pot of tea. He poured himself a cup and drank it. Suddenly, a looming leg appeared in front of him. The man in the Cheongsam spat out the tea in his mouth. Then a head popped out. It was a looming head with a pale face. There was a black petal-shaped mark between her eyebrows. It was as if a shy girl was peeking out of the door and secretly looking at the outside world. The man in the Cheongsam put down his teacup and looked at her in confusion. What are you playing at now? Ning Shu's figure appeared. Her soul spirit was still very weak and would scatter with a gust of wind. She said to the man in the Cheongsam, Zuli, I'm dead. I'm dead. The man in the Cheongsam? A smile appeared on Ning Shu's face. I'm dead. The man in the Cheongsam thought, you're crazy. Ning Shu lifted her skirt and ran out of the restaurant. She stood at the door and shouted, I'm dead. She lifted her skirt and the long skirt dragged on the ground. When she turned back, the light shone on her pale face and almost penetrated her transparent soul. A strand of hair stuck to her face. She smiled brightly and the black mark between her eyebrows shone. She was dead. From now on, no one could kill her because she was dead. Only death was eternal. She was death and death was eternal. She could be considered as death walking in the human world. Everything could disappear, but death would not disappear. She was death. Even if her consciousness and consciousness dissipated in the future, a new consciousness would be born. Death would not disappear. Perhaps that consciousness would not be her, but death was eternal. Ning Shu said, I'm dead. I'm dead. Ning Shu ran around the city of time. She ran to Elder Qi and said, Elder Qi, I'm dead. I'm dead. Before Elder Qi could say anything, Ning Shu lifted her skirt and ran away. Her snow-white transparent feet stepped on the bluestone floor and brought a fragrant wind with her as she ran through the crowd. Someone turned around to look at her. Ning Shu turned around with a wanton smile on her face. Her hair fluttered in the wind, making her look extremely beautiful. Looking at Ning Shu, a smile appeared on her face. She didn't know that she was smiling, but when she saw the smile on her face, she smiled as well. Ning Shu lifted her skirt and ran back to the restaurant. The Cheongsam man was drinking tea and eating pastries. Ning Shu sat opposite him and poured a cup of tea. The man in the Cheongsam glanced at her. Can I understand that you're toying with me? You came here looking like you were about to die. What's the situation now? Ning Shu laughed before saying, I'm indeed dead. I'm really dead. The Cheongsam man said, Speak human language. Ning Shu pondered for a moment. My current state is a little special. Actually, I'm dead, but I'm not dead. I'm living with the will of death. She was death. No one could kill death because death could not die, but death was eternal. Death was immortal. Because all things wither away and die, death is eternal. The Cheongsam man squinted his eyes. Although I don't really understand, you're not dead now, are you? Will you return the world tree to me? Ning Shu shook her head. Of course not. I've already saved it. Why should I return it to you? Did Elder Qian say that there's a way? There's no way. There's only death, the Cheongsam man said. Yes, there was only death. Whether it was alive or not, It would all return to the embrace of death. It was just that her soul power was too weak now. She wouldn't die, but that didn't mean that it wouldn't hurt. If she couldn't be killed, it would hurt a lot. Now, her soul was about to dissipate with the wind. It was a very weak and uncomfortable feeling. Even if it was weak, it wouldn't dissipate like a normal soul because she wouldn't die. She was already dead. He couldn't kill her. Even if he destroyed her consciousness, she would still be reborn. She would regain consciousness and form a new personality. You said that you can lend me your soul power. Is that true? Ningshu asked. Her soul power was so weak now. It was uncomfortable. The Cheongsam man said, looking at you, I don't think you're going to die. Friend, I'm not lending it to you. It's just a waste of my feelings. She looked like she was going to die. She really thought that she was going to die. Ningshu said, heartless. Ningshu asked, am I pretty? Average. There are too many beautiful women in the organization. You can only be considered average. The Cheongsam man glanced at Ningshu. If it's a beauty contest, you can only be in the top 10. Ningshu was stunned. Then he smiled. Being in the top 10 was a big compliment. There were hundreds of millions of people in the organization. There were countless mission enforcers and many beautiful women. Being in the top 10 was amazing. Mission enforcers could also modify their souls. There were many attractive female mission enforcers. Life was like summer flowers and death was like autumn leaves. She was probably very beautiful. Ningshu touched his face. So beautiful. It's so frustrating. Such a beautiful face will accompany me for eternity. It's so satisfying. Sweet trouble. From a face as plain as soup to a face as beautiful as it was now, it was only this face that did not abandon her. It was getting better and better, and she was also getting better and better. The Cheongsam man had just picked up his teacup. When he heard this, he put it down again. He almost vomited the snack he had just eaten. He changed the topic. Why is your soul always fat and thin? It was as if his soul had just become stronger, but it would suddenly disappear with the wind. It recovered, but it would collapse again. What was he playing at? Was this fun? Ningshu said, it won't happen again. It won't happen again. In the future, no one would be able to beat or kill her. Otherwise, be obedient and come into my arms. Ningshu smiled at the Cheongsam man. This time, his smile was bright and beautiful. The Cheongsam man was dazed for a moment. Thank you for this time. When I have time, I'll treat you to something. In the future, we'll go to the void world to look for treasures. She would not die, but it would be very painful to be pressed down and beaten. When the pressure reached the critical point, her consciousness would collapse and then a new consciousness would be born. But at that time, the new consciousness would be different. It would not be her anymore. It was like renting a house. When the previous tenant left, the next tenant could come. But it would no longer be the previous tenant. The stronger she was, the higher the pressure she could bear. She could do nothing. She could sit aside and support her chin. She could watch the sea of law collapse and everyone be destroyed forever. Obediently, they had all fallen into the embrace of death. Death meant eternal life. The Cheongsam man nodded. Okay, it's a pity for the world tree. She could have inherited some inheritance. Now that she was not dead, it was a joke. Ningshu opened his hand and the world tree appeared in his palm. Sorry, I can't give it to you. At that time, she was determined to die. Even if she died, His Excellency in the world of reincarnation would not leave her alone. Because that child was born in that world of reincarnation. His Excellency would take care of it and not let the world of reincarnation have any problems. She worried too much. Chapter 3095. As for the peerless martial arts, if he died, there would probably be no one to take over. It could only fend for itself. If there were serious consequences, there would definitely be someone to deal with it. As for his imprint, he was already dead. Who would care if it was still there? Now that he was dead, the imprint would definitely float away. There were originally 4, but now there were only 3. He had just comprehended the law of prophecy, and now the law of prophecy had collapsed. Even if it collapsed, Zheng Qing would definitely be pushed into the law of nothingness. This bit of prophecy would only increase Jing Qing's distress, but to be able to make Jing Qing suffer, Ning Shu felt that it was all worth it. Ning Shu lifted her skirt and ran out of the restaurant. She went to the City of Water and City of Wood and strolled around. Fortunately, these imprints were still there. Her basic strength was still there, but now she had an immortal body. Even if her consciousness was destroyed, she could be reborn. At that time it would be her, but it would also not be her. Ning Shu returned to the system space. The chatting system was ringing. She thought that with the strength of her soul, she would not be able to open the chatting system. If she wanted to think, then let it ring. The most important thing now was to find some soul power. It was not good to be so weak and transparent. It was a pity that she could not show her beautiful face. System scanning, confirming the death of the mission enforcer. The system space is about to be destroyed. The system's mechanical voice came. Ning Shu was clearly in front of her, but the system scanning result was that she was already dead. Destroy the system space? Are you kidding me? Ning Shu immediately said, I'm still alive. I'm still here. Destroy my ass. Her soul was so weak now. She still needed to rely on missions to become stronger. Moreover, she could not leave the organization for the time being. After all, she needed merit grains to cultivate skeletons. The system scanned Ning Shu again. It seemed to be uncertain and repeatedly confirmed. Scan again. Confirmed dead. Ning Shu grinned. She felt that her current state was a bit strange. She was indeed dead, but she still existed. She was dead. The system's scanning result was also correct. Ning Shu said to the system, operate the chatting system now and practice with the main system. I'm still alive. No, I'm really dead. I'm still here. The system controlled the chat system and transmitted Ning Shu's words to the main system. The main system replied, is the mission enforcer dead? Ning Shu said, no, he's not dead. Ning Shu's current state was similar to that of a dead person who had turned into a ghost. To the living she was dead, but in fact she still existed. She was real. The main system was probably confused as well. Ning Shu asked the main system to open the video and prepare the video. Although his soul was weak now, it wasn't as if he couldn't see. Although she did not break away from the organization could no longer punish her or kill her. Even if she left the organization, she could still exist forever. From a certain point of view, she belonged to a different level of power. Human weapons could not kill ghosts, not even atomic bombs. They were not on the same level. Seeing that Ning Shu was still there, the main system stopped destroying the system space. However, Ning Shu's status was grayed out, indicating that he was dead. He probably felt that it wasn't good to have a gray zombie account, so he changed Ning Shu's status to red. Therefore, Ning Shu came back to life from the dead state. As for the main system's confusion, let it be. Where could he go to get some soul power? To do tasks? The world of samsara did not collect soul power at all. He couldn't collect much in a short time. He didn't know if there were still people making soul fluid on the second level. He would go and take a stroll. Anyway, his spiritual power had expanded. He would know if there were any soul fluid with a sweep of his spiritual power. Ding dong, ding dong. The chat system kept ringing. Ning Shu said slowly, what did it say? Read it to me. The system said, the main system sent a message asking you to go over and change shifts. Ning Shu said, oh, tell them to wait. Without the threat of death, Ning Shu felt that she could slow down her pace. Immortality was enough for her to do whatever she wanted. As long as he didn't cut off his own path of survival, he could live as long as he wanted. His previous enthusiasm and panic were only because his life couldn't be guaranteed. Now that his life was guaranteed, he would be putting the cart before the horse. Ding dong. The chat system rang again. The system took the initiative and said, they are asking when, please go over as soon as possible. Let them wait. I'll talk about it after I'm done with my own things. The system replied just like that. Ning Shu's attitude was probably too tough. The main system couldn't persuade him to change shifts and wanted to fine him. Ning Shu said, punish me as you wish. She said before she had to do her own things first. Ning Shu opened the black hole and entered the world of samsara. This time, Ning Shu didn't even open an umbrella. This little bit of pollution was nothing to her. Maybe the disaster beast could solve it by itself. Even if the main system find her, she would just be a little slower in cultivating skeletons. She had plenty of time, so she wasn't afraid of the main system's fines. Ning Shu shouted happily. It felt so good to have someone to rely on. She could say what she wanted and do what she wanted. There were so many people she could handle. If she didn't go, there would be others. Even if she didn't go, the main system would have other candidates. If she went obediently, it would save the main system a lot of trouble. From now on, Ning Shu felt that she would have to say no more often. When the disaster beast was born, she would go up and take a look. Even if her soul was polluted, she wouldn't die, but her mind might be polluted. Ning Shu entered the second level of Nine Palace Mountain. Although her soul was weak and could collapse at any time, she didn't feel the threat of death. Ning Shu used her spiritual energy to scan. Wherever she passed, she would use her spiritual energy to scan. After walking through many places, she didn't see anyone making soul fluid. It seemed like no one was making soul fluid anymore. This world formed a grand cultivation world. There were many sects and schools. There were many new sects and many sects that disappeared. The world was full of vitality, and Ning Shu could clearly feel it. This world didn't just have one main character, but many main characters. Such a big world needed many people to support it. So, Yi Lin didn't even make a single appearance. Did he just disappear into the crowd? Ning Shu felt that he might have done something to Yi Lin and overthrown those cities, causing Yi Lin to have nothing to do. But by the time Yi Lin grew up and overthrew those cities, who knew how long it would take? The world definitely wouldn't change as fast as it did now. Since no one was making soul fluid in the deep mountains and ordinary towns and cities, Ning Shu wanted to go to these sects to see if they had any stock. If the sects had soul fluid, he could exchange it for something. He didn't know if these sects were secretly refining soul fluid. Chapter 3096. Since it was a cultivation world, it needed cultivation resources. Ning Shu had exchanged a lot of spirit stones before, and there was a lot of spirit liquid in the spirit pool. 2 fish swam inside. These things were useless to Ning Shu, and they took up a lot of space. It was good to exchange them for some soul fluid. These sect disciples were in high spirits, wearing the sect's clothes. The men were handsome and the women were beautiful. They stood on flying swords. Ning Shu stood on a disciple's sword. The disciple suddenly felt the sword sink and almost lost control of it. She looked back and saw Ning Shu smiling at her. The disciple said, "Who are you?" The disciples next to her came over and looked at Ning Shu vigilantly. Ning Shu said, "I'm going to your sect. Let's go together." These sects had sect-protecting arrays at their mountain gates, and they were hidden. At first glance, it was impossible to scan them with spiritual power. However, some sects showed their sect's location, but they also had sect-protecting arrays. These disciples were very vigilant against Ning Shu's sudden appearance. Some of them even took out their magic weapons. Ning Shu smiled faintly and floated away. Her laughter was crisp and clear as she floated away. Since he didn't want to go with her, then forget it. Ning Shu found a sect called the Hall of Soul Life. It sounded a little familiar, as if he had heard it before. Ning Shu touched his chin and thought. Probably because he had died once, his memory was not very good. After a while, he remembered that Yi Lin had once said that he would create a sect called the Hall of Soul Life. Ning Shu grinned. This Hall of Soul Life had a forbidden area. What was the use of the forbidden area? It was actually producing soul fluid. The people who had once guarded souls were now producing soul fluid. The people who had sternly suppressed the production of soul fluid were now producing soul fluid. Did this mean that people would eventually live a life they hated? They would forget what they used to be like. Some people caught souls and brought them to the forbidden area. The number of souls caught was not many, and the soul fluid was only produced drop by drop. It was not like before when pools were produced on a large scale. It wasn't easy to capture a soul now. Ning Shu stood in the sky above the Hall of Soul Life and observed the sect. The sect wasn't considered big. At most, it was a small sect. The secret manuals that ordinary disciples cultivated were not peerless martial arts, but ordinary immortal cultivation's secret manuals. It seemed that Yi Lin did not teach peerless martial arts to ordinary disciples. Ning Shu felt that in the end, Yi Lin hadn't been able to hold on. He didn't know why he had started to concoct soul fluid. It was a little inconceivable. Ning Shu called Earthworm. Didn't he know that Earthworm had changed his diet? Ning Shu felt a little suspicious. Since Yi Lin was producing soul fluid, it was possible that he was feeding soul fluid to the earthworms. Ning Shu shouted at Earthworm for a while, but Earthworm didn't respond. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. What's going on? Why didn't the Earthworm reply? Could it be that Earthworm wasn't here? Yi Lin was cultivating in the secret room. How could Earthworm not be here? Did it die? Last time they met, Earthworm said that he was going to change his diet. How could it not be here? Ning Shu landed in front of the sect. There was a spirit beast guarding the gate. When it saw Ning Shu, it immediately roared. First, it was to intimidate Ning Shu. Second, it could inform the people of the sect. Soon, a few disciples came out. When they saw the faintly discernible Ning Shu, they were very surprised. Ning Shu said, "I'm looking for your sect master. Tell her that a soul is looking for her. Please inform her." Among these disciples, Ning Shu discovered that a few of them had some luck. With these disciples, the sect would definitely prosper in the future. But now, the production of soul fluid was classified as an evil sect. These disciples shouldn't know that their sect master was producing soul fluid. A disciple looked at Ning Shu and ran in. Not long after, Yi Lin came out. Yi Lin's body was faintly floating with black qi. His strength had increased a lot. He was still a young boy before, but now he had grown up. He looked like a man now. When Yi Lin appeared, these disciples looked at Yi Lin with eyes full of admiration and respect. They all saluted him. Yi Lin smiled. When he saw Ning Shu, he looked for a while before recognizing who it was. He cupped his hands and shouted, "Senior." Ning Shu just nodded. "Where's Earthworm? Why don't I see it?" Yi Lin's face showed sadness. He said to Ning Shu, "Senior, let's talk inside." Ning Shu stepped over the threshold, his skirt dragging on the ground. He followed Yi Lin into the hall. Ning Shu saw Yi Lin's expression and felt that something was wrong. He sat down and asked, "Don't tell me something happened to it?" Yi Lin's lips pursed into a straight line. He nodded with difficulty. "It's dead." Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. "How did it die?" Yi Lin sighed and said, "I failed to take good care of it." "I failed to take care of it?" Ning Shu asked, "How did it happen?" Yi Lin said, "I went to find Bai Sisi. During that time, I had a conflict with the saint. Something happened to it and it was killed by the saint." Ning Shu didn't understand the situation at that time, but the earthworm's ability to drill into the ground was first class. Its ability to escape was also very good. Moreover, it had soul poison. A bite would definitely let it escape. Ning Shu said indifferently, "Then did you save Bai Sisi?" "That saint was more terrifying than I thought. They didn't save Bai Sisi. Now, he had to develop his own force. He couldn't do it alone." "I'm sorry." Ning Shu asked, "So you made soul fluid and absorbed it to become stronger?" Yi Lin's expression changed. His face was full of shock, shame, embarrassment, and a bit of killing intent. Then his body withered and he said, "I have no choice. I don't know how to become stronger faster." Ning Shu just snorted and didn't say anything. It was a pity that the earthworm died just like that. They couldn't see each other anymore. The earthworm didn't survive in this world. "What about the earthworm's soul? You didn't turn it into soul fluid, did you?" Ning Shu asked. "No, I don't know where its soul went." Seeing Ning Shu staring at him, Yi Lin was afraid that the other party would suspect him. "I swear on my Tao heart." Ning Shu said, "Your Tao heart is already unstable. Since you started making soul fluid, your Tao heart has been riddled with holes." Yi Lin's face was pale. Ning Shu said, "Hand over the soul fluid you made. I will give you some cultivation resources. You probably won't let your disciples know that you are doing such an evil thing." You should know the consequences of absorbing soul fluid, especially impure soul fluid. Even if Ning Shu didn't die now, he wouldn't absorb impure souls. He didn't want to be turned into a madman by the impure soul fluid. Moreover, his whole body was emitting black gas, which affected his beautiful face. Ye Lin had a conflicted expression on his face. The power brought about by absorbing the soul fluid was like taking drugs. It wasn't easy to quit. Chapter 3097. Especially since cultivation was a battle against the heavens, he wouldn't let go of any opportunity to become stronger. Seeing that Ning Shu's soul was so weak, Ye Lin weighed the pros and cons in his heart. If you want to fight, do you think you can still protect your sect? Ning Shu asked. Ye Lin immediately withered and handed over 2 bottles of soul fluid. The bottles weren't big. Ning Shu took them and gave him some spirit stones for cultivation. According to the previous method, have you destroyed your device? Under Ning Shu's gaze, Ye Lin destroyed the device. Ning Shu took a little bit of soul fluid and left. After leaving the 9 Palace Mountain, he went to the pool that collected soul power. There were only a few drops of soul fluid and nothing much. Returning to the system space, Ning Shu put the soul fluid aside. With so little, he was too embarrassed to ask the Chongsam man to send it to the main system for purification. In fact, absorbing it like this was fine. After all, a person who couldn't die wouldn't die no matter how much he pretended. The problem was that Ning Shu didn't want to become a person who was easily angered. I'm so beautiful. If I'm angry, it will affect my beauty. Anger makes people ugly. The chat system kept ringing. It was a message from the main system, asking him to either pick up the fragments or deal with the star stone. It seemed that it was really urgent and was waiting to take over. Probably because the grand uncle wasn't here, there was no one to deal with the star stone. Ning Shu said to the system, "Help me contact His Excellency and ask him if he sells soul power. Use some merit points to buy it from His Excellency. If he doesn't want to sell it, then so be it." The system said, "You have been blacklisted by His Excellency." Ning Shu said, "Contact the other skeletons and ask." His soul was so weak that he couldn't even pick up things. This was not a problem. Even so, Ning Shu wasn't anxious at all. He lay on the sofa leisurely. The system asked and then said to Ning Shu, "They said that these are to be exchanged with the organization. They don't do other transactions." Ning Shu didn't care and said, "Oh." As expected, the organization didn't allow things like soul power to be sold. Only through missions could they obtain the soul power contributed by the entrusting party. This would stop the mission enforcers from speculating and using the power of faith and merit to purchase soul power. Since he had made a deal with the organization, His Excellency would not sell it to anyone else. Since he had set a precedent, there would probably be a swarm of mission takers looking for His Excellency and skeleton to purchase soul power. Ning Shu touched his face in the mirror. How could such a beautiful face be faintly discernible? Ning Shu touched the black mark between his eyebrows. He had no idea where the law of water had gone. There was only a black mark left. The system said, "The main system sent a message asking you to change shifts." Ning Shu's gaze didn't leave the mirror. He looked at his face from all angles and said, "He said that my soul is about to dissipate, so I can't do it." The system followed Ning Shu's instructions and replied, "She said her soul is about to dissipate, so she can't do it." The system said, "The main system said that as a mission enforcer, you should accept the assignment." Ning Shu said, "I'm a mission enforcer. It's not like I can handle the celestial stone alone. Isn't it better to spend some money and let a few bosses handle the celestial stone together? Can't you see that my soul is so weak?" Fine. There was plenty of time to earn the money back. In the days of immortality, if he hurriedly finished everything, what would he do in the future? What she wanted to do now was to admire her beautiful face and deepen her understanding of the law of space. She wanted to go back to her previous world to take a look. She wondered if her parents were still alive and how her 2 brothers were doing. Was the plane she was born in still there? There were too many planes that had shattered. Was that plane still there? If it had shattered, was her family still alive? Had they moved to another world to live? Or had they shattered into dust along with the plane? Some things had always been suppressed in her heart. She didn't want to think about them, she didn't want to touch them. Because even living was a problem, she didn't have the right to speak. When everything she said was wrong, this kind of extravagant hope was basically an impossible dream. Now, he had enough time to take his time and do whatever he wanted. The system sent Ning Shu's words to the main system. The main system was probably quite frustrated. It didn't insist on letting Ning Shu change shifts to deal with the star stones. Instead, it froze all the resources in Ning Shu's account. Merit and power of faith couldn't be used. It was equivalent to storing money in the bank. The money that belonged to her couldn't be used. Ning Shu was speechless. She had planned to admire her face enough and go deal with the star stones. She also wanted to see if it would be easier for her to deal with the star stones now. In the end, her account was frozen. There was no need to go. She had plenty of time. She would go to the Time City to find the Cheongsam man and cooperate with him to go to the Void World. She would find some good things to sell and get some snacks for the little cute skeleton. To be honest, there was nothing she couldn't do to get 100,000 merit points. Since you've frozen my account, I don't have to deal with the star stones for a long time. Dealing with the star stones hurt her soul. Her soul was so weak now. She wouldn't die, but it didn't mean she wouldn't feel pain. The system said, Uncle Chang sent a message to ask you to help deal with it. Senior uncle isn't here. In addition to the 100,000 merit points given by the system, he will give you 100,000 each. Hiring one was cheaper than hiring several people. The others were all dealt with by a few people. 100,000 each was not worth it for he who worried about the military expenses every day. Ning Shu held her chin. Senior uncle wasn't here. Did he die with Xingqing? It was quite delightful. Although Ning Shu knew it was impossible. Xingqing definitely couldn't kill senior uncle for the time being. According to the space node given by the other party, Ning Shu built a space tunnel and arrived at the place where the plane shattered. After dealing with the star stones for a long time, Uncle Chang and he were very tired. Seeing Ning Shu come, they didn't care if Ning Shu's soul could handle the star stones now. They quickly let Ning Shu handle it. Ning Shu's soul was thin now. It was difficult for him to pick up tools. However, it was easy for him to deal with the star stones. With a scrape, the star stones were clean. There was no rebound force. It was like scraping off the water stains on the surface. Ning Shu nodded with satisfaction. It seemed that it would be easy to deal with his world in the future. Uncle Chang breathed a sigh of relief. The rebound force of the star stones was the most annoying. Ning Shu dealt with the star stones one by one. Not long after, senior uncle came back. When Uncle Chang saw senior uncle, his tone was somewhat bitter. Where did you go? He was exhausted. Senior uncle looked at Ning Shu, who was dealing with the star stones. You're not dead yet? Ning Shu raised her head and smiled brightly. Her smile could dazzle people. Yes, I'm not dead yet. By the way, is Xingqing dead? If he's not dead, I might go back to visit him when I'm free. After all, we've worked together for a long time. Ning Shu's tone was soft, as if she was saying that she and Xingqing were good friends. Ning Shu stood up and said to senior uncle, since you're here, I'll leave it to you. Ning Shu spread out her hands to Uncle Chang. 100,000 merit points. /BK. Chapter 3098. You asked me to take over the shift, but you didn't say how long it would take. Now that the grand uncle was back, it was time for her to leave. But 100,000 merit points couldn't be less. Uncle Chang was speechless. He was usually the one asking for money, but now someone was asking him for money. The grand uncle said, since you've received the money, you should do it. Ning Shu didn't move, but his eyes turned and glanced at the grand uncle. I did it. 100,000 each time. I've already done it once. Is there anything wrong with 100,000? Ning Shu spread his hands. Is there anything wrong? Uncle Chang didn't say anything. He looked at the grand uncle and the two of them, watching the show with his arms crossed. The grand uncle frowned, looking a little impatient. Ning Shu took a few steps forward and stood in front of him. Can we be reasonable? You said 100,000 each time, and they promised me 100,000. What did I do wrong? Ning Shu approached him again, and the Grand Uncle took 2 steps back, away from Ning Shu. He took a step back, and Ning Shu took a step forward. I want 100,000 merit points. What's wrong with that? Don't come over. It's disgusting, the Grand Uncle warned. Ning Shu took another step forward. I'll come over. What can you do to me? Kill me? Come on. Come and kill me. Uncle Chang almost laughed out loud. After living for so long, this was the first time he saw someone rushing to die. The Grand Uncle pulled out his gun and pointed it at Ning Shu's forehead. You're so annoying. So what if I kill you? Ning Shu held the gun barrel and pointed it at his head. Shoot. Actually, I want to test if I can do it. The Grand Uncle pulled the trigger and fired with a cold expression. The black bullet penetrated Ning Shu's forehead, and there was a finger-sized bullet hole from between his eyebrows to the back of his head. It went through his head. Ning Shu groaned. She raised her head and touched the space between her eyebrows. It really hurts. It really hurts. Although it hurt, his soul didn't collapse. He didn't die? Uncle Chang's expression became serious, and some of the onlookers looked over. When the Grand Elder saw this, there was no surprise on his face. If the first shot didn't kill him, he fired a second shot. He was annoyed at first, but now that Ning Shu was in such a state, he would feel sorry for himself if he didn't kill him. When people were angry, it was normal to stomp on a caterpillar near their feet. Ning Shu squatted down and avoided the second shot. The feeling of the bullet piercing through his soul was too painful. It was cold and awe-inspiring. It was not a good feeling. He wouldn't stupidly take the second shot. If the other party fired a few more shots, although he could be reborn, it wouldn't be good if his will was erased. Ning Shu stood up and condensed a long sword in his hand. It flickered with a cold luster. Senior Uncle opened fire. Ning Shu dodged the bullet and slashed at Senior Uncle with her sword. Guns were not suitable for close-range fighting. Taishu's face was as cold as iron. He condensed a black sword in his hand. The 2 swords collided and sparks flew. Clanging sounds rang out as the 2 swords tried their best to devour each other. Ning Shu condensed a long black whip in his left hand. He retreated quickly and threw the long whip out to entangle the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder stood still and waved his sword, cutting the long whip in half and annihilating it. Ning Shu clicked his tongue twice. She was too weak. Her soul couldn't provide energy at all. She wouldn't die, but it was too difficult to deal with the Grand Elder. The reason why she could hold on until now was because her own will of death had provided her with a lot of energy. Ning Shu's hair was stuck to his face. His expression was solemn. He condensed more power in his sword and rushed over with a fearless attitude like a cannonball. The Grand Elder looked impatient. His body was as straight as a pine tree. He stood still and gently stroked the sword. He lifted the heavy as if it was light, leisurely and indifferent. The power gushed out from the sword like a trickle. It didn't look like much to outsiders, but Ning Shu, who was locked on, felt the pressure double. This power broke Ning Shu's sword and scratched Ning Shu's face. Half of his face was injured. If Ning Shu hadn't dodged quickly, half of his head would have been cut off. The wound wouldn't heal in a short time. Some kind of power was nibbling at the wound, preventing it from healing. It was also devouring his soul. Ning Shu touched his face. You fucking hurt my face. It was unforgivable. The onlookers were speechless. It seemed that the focus was a bit wrong. Why was the focus on the face? Ning Shu touched his face. He was particularly distressed. There was a big scar on his originally good-looking face. She looked in the mirror and was in a good mood when she saw her face. It felt great to be awakened by her beauty. The Grand Elder stared at Ning Shu. She should have been devoured and disappeared. He looked at Ning Shu and pondered. Finally, he understood. Ning Shu condensed many swords and rushed toward the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder felt that if they continued fighting, things would be delayed and the surrounding planes would be easily implicated. The most important thing was that the 2 sides didn't retreat. There was no way out. He didn't know how long the fight would last. The Grand Elder stood out as a peacemaker. He stopped them and said, "Why can't we talk nicely? It's not 100,000. Before he finished speaking, he was knocked away by Ning Shu. The Grand Elder raised his sword and chopped down at Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu blocked the Grand Elder's attack. He condensed a sword with his other hand and stabbed it toward the Grand Elder's heart. He had stabbed Zheng Qing's heart before, but Zheng Qing was fine. At that time, he was weak. But this time, the sword condensed with the will of death carried death and decay. The Grand Elder took 2 steps back and avoided Ning Shu's sword. Ning Shu's head was split in half. Even so, Ning Shu still didn't die. It was painful. The pain was unreal. The pain of having his head cut open was very intense. Ning Shu, my face. The Grand Elder, who was knocked away, looked at Ning Shu and then at the Grand Elder. Ning Shu gave up fighting. It was really painful to be beaten up. His foundation was too weak. Slowly, Ning Shu's soul began to heal. It gradually recovered, but his soul looked even weaker. Ning Shu touched his head and face and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he didn't walk around with his head cut open. She wouldn't die, but when she reached the critical point, her will would be erased. At the critical point, he would be the one at a disadvantage. He wasn't the Grand Elder's opponent for the time being. The Grand Elder stopped him again. What's there to fight about? You're so angry. Everyone should be harmonious. It's a beautiful tomorrow. Of course, he was angry. Ning Shu was full of anger. As for whether the Grand Elder was angry, he didn't know. Anyway, he felt uncomfortable in his heart. The Grand Elder said calmly, "Sometimes, not dying isn't a lucky thing." Ning Shu flipped his hair. "Whether it's a lucky thing or not, I have the final say." Of course, she understood Taishu's meaning. If one was weak and couldn't die, then death would become the most beautiful extravagant hope. Therefore, in order to avoid pain and torture, Ning Shu had to be strong. /BK Chapter 3099. Uncle Chang narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu. He looked up and down at Ning Shu and said, "So, you got immortality." Ning Shu said, "I'm not talented. I just realized life and death. Immortality doesn't exist." Senior uncle said, "Since you're disobedient, I'll erase your will and give birth to an obedient one." Ning Shu immediately covered her heart and widened her almond-shaped eyes. "Wow, you're so abnormal. You're actually going to raise a new me." As soon as she said that, the atmosphere froze. Uncle Chang coughed and said, "Isn't it a matter of 100,000 merit points? I'll give it. Ning Shu said, "You should have given it. It was a matter of course. What a great gift. You've been wronged." Ning Shu said to Uncle Chang, "Transfer it to my account. If you don't give it to me, I may block the door and ask for it. By the way, tell he." And he left as soon as her shift changed. He didn't know what happened after that. Ning Shu built a space channel, walked into it with her skirt, and left. There was someone who dared to fight with Senior Uncle and even ran away. The onlookers looked at Senior Uncle. Senior Uncle didn't care about their gazes. His expression was indifferent. He wasn't angry or dignified. The big bosses looked at each other. Now, they were going to add a girl to the list of people they cared about. This kind of person who wasn't afraid of death and couldn't die would be a criminal. Even if she stood still and let you kill her, she couldn't be killed. After killing her, she would recover. It was enough to dishearten people. An undying cockroach might not be strong now, but it was good at disgusting people. Being entangled meant that there would be no peace in the future. The longer you lived, the longer she lived. Until death, she would haunt you like a ghost. "Hey, it's so cold." No, this cockroach should be at the top of the list because of her disgusting characteristics. Uncle Chang said to Senior Uncle politely, "There's an uncontrollable one. Do you want to deal with it?" Senior Uncle Chang opened the chat system and told the main system, "Keep an eye on her. Once she does something out of line, erase her will." Uncle Chang smacked his lips. How could such a lass obtain eternal life? They had lived for a long time, but they knew that they would eventually die. It was just a matter of time. No matter how boring their lives were, they never thought of dying. He didn't want to face death. The sword in Taishu's hand disappeared inch by inch as if nothing had happened. Then he started to process the star stones. The eldest uncle said to the Grand Elder, "Since this will can't be controlled, Changing to another will might be more effective. It might be able to protect these things better. Eternal life, the protection of eternal life. Eldest uncle sighed. The Grand Elder said indifferently, "It's been too long." "That's true." Uncle Chang nodded. The birth of a new will wasn't something that could be accomplished in a day or two. Ning Shu returned to the system space and looked at his fragile soul. He did not know where he should go to get some soul energy. Could it be that he was going to do a mission? After such a ruckus, Ning Shu felt that the main system would definitely keep a close eye on him. His every move would be under the eyes of others, but Ning Shu did not regret fighting such a battle. Although his head was blown open and he didn't hurt a single hair on the other party, she would definitely die. However, he was certain that she would not die. After being shot once, she would not obediently take a second shot. It wasn't like she wouldn't resist if he caught her and tortured her. Ning Shu looked at his sperm. Fortunately, it had returned to normal. Otherwise, his beauty would be gone. Ning Shu cherished her face very much. Now that her survival was guaranteed, it was time to find something interesting. Now, his soul was so transparent that it couldn't be seen. But it didn't prevent him from seeing a beautiful face. Ding dong! There was the sound of merit entering the account. 200,000 merit points. 100,000 each for Fragrant Wind Man and Uncle Chang. However, it was transferred to his account. Ning Shu's account was frozen by the main system. Even if he had money, he couldn't use it. Ning Shu found the main system. "Unfreeze my account. These merit points are mine." "Why did you freeze them?" "Great. I didn't go to work today. It's normal that you don't give me my salary. But you froze my bank card." Once it was unfrozen, he would leave some to buy things. The rest would be exchanged for merit points. They would all become merit points. "Look at how frozen you are." "Main system, it's not time to unfreeze yet." Ning Shu asked, "When will it be unfrozen?" "Main system, depends on the time." So it depended on the organization's mood. Ning Shu shrugged. "How long do you want to freeze it?" At most, he would cultivate the skeletons slowly. The skeletons he cultivated now were enough to deal with the world of reincarnation. The second world of reincarnation was still evolving. He didn't need skeletons for the time being. Even if the evolution was successful, there would be no soul and no need to manage it. Ning Shu stretched lazily. Now, the most important thing was to strengthen his soul. So, he still had to do missions? The purification ability of the main system was something Ning Shu coveted the most. However, the organization's headquarters was quite mysterious. He didn't know where it was. It relied on the network to connect so many mission enforcers. As for the purification method, it was also hidden. Although Ning Shu coveted it, he wasn't in a hurry. Anyway, he had a lot of time. He would definitely see what he wanted to see. Let's see who dies first. I'll use time to kill you all. Moreover, Ning Shu felt that it wouldn't be easy to create a new sea of law. Even if his eldest uncle said that there was a problem with the sea of law, there were still many hundreds of thousands of years. However, in these hundreds of thousands of years, Zheng Qing might not be able to create a new sea of law even if he soaked in the law of nothingness. This was just a theory. It wasn't certain if it could be realized. It was just a theory. To be able to push Zheng Qing, who had been with him for so many years, into the law of nothingness and hope that the grand uncle would feel sorry for the mission enforcers, it didn't exist. Ning Shu touched his head. He still had some lingering fear. That was really ugly. She didn't know which corner of the pond Zheng Qing was soaking in. She wanted to go and find Zheng Qing. However, his soul was so weak now. If he appeared in front of Zheng Qing, it wouldn't be convincing. He might as well wait until his soul was strong enough to kill Zheng Qing. Zheng Qing's death wouldn't affect the law of nothingness from devouring him. Killing Zheng Qing meant that he had to fight with the grand uncle. Even if she couldn't do anything to Zheng Qing, he would be soaking in the law of nothingness while she wandered outside. Looking at the grand uncle, he should have pushed Zheng Qing into the law of nothingness. At that time, she had hurt Zheng Qing and let him slip away. The grand uncle was really too lame. Ning Shu said to the system, "Go do missions now." Since he couldn't get soul fluid, he would do missions. If he didn't do missions, his soul would always be so weak. It would hurt to be suppressed and beaten. Moreover, he couldn't die even if he wanted to. /BK. Chapter 3100. Until the critical point of destroying her consciousness and willpower, she would be immortal, and she would not even be able to commit suicide. On the phone. In order to avoid being tortured, beaten, or having her consciousness erased, she had to become stronger. Since the Grand Elder said that he could erase her consciousness, there really was a way. These old monsters had lived for too long and knew too many things. Compared to them, she seemed very ignorant and was often looked down upon. Ning Shu exchanged some fasting pills and medicine. He would not die, but it did not mean that the client's body would not die. The system asked, "There are difficult and easy missions in the backlog. What difficulty do you want?" Ning Shu said, "Well, randomly draw. If I get the difficult one, I'll do the difficult one, and if I get the easy one, I'll do the easy one." The system said, "Let's go according to the urgency of the mission." Ning Shu twisted his neck and warmed up. "Okay, anything is fine." She was now at ease and boldly doing missions, trying her best to complete them. Even if she failed, she was not afraid of being erased by the system. It was not like before when she took on a mission with trepidation, afraid that she could not complete it and would be erased. Now, she was not afraid. No matter how difficult the mission was, Ning Shu dared to do it. Failure was no longer at the cost of her life. It was an ordinary mistake. Even if she was erased, she would not die. The system said, "The mission has been chosen. Mission taker, please get ready to enter the plane." When he was teleporting, Ning Shu wondered when he could find the space node of his birth plane and jump back to that plane. Even if he could not do it, he could spend some money to ask the elders to make a space passage. Ning Shu had a lot of time to continue to understand the space system, but he did not know the flow of time in that world. Now, in that world, a day, a year, 10 years, or 1,000 years had passed. If it was a few years, the time span was not big. If it was a few hundred years or a few thousand years, then the world would have changed, and there would be nothing left. There was a problem with the Sea of Law. There were many broken planes. He hoped that the world was not broken. If he searched world by world, there would be too many planes, and it would take a lot of time. Ning Shu merged into his body, and a sharp pain came from his body. Due to the conflict earlier, Uncle Chang didn't leave. He said to Granduncle, "That girl actually went to do a mission and acted as if nothing had happened. I thought she would make a scene for a while." Uncle Zhang could be considered to have experienced that lass's temper. Previously, she had been timid and cowardly, unable to let go of her hands and feet. Now, she had completely let go of her hands and feet. Moreover, she was extravagant. Indeed, strength makes one bold. The Grand Elder said indifferently, "Your soul is so weak. What else can you do if you don't do missions?" Uncle Zhang asked, "Are we really not going to do anything? She's well behaved. If she doesn't cause trouble, we'll keep her. If she causes trouble, we won't keep her." The Grand Uncle didn't care about the person who had suddenly appeared. So what if he was immortal? So what if he couldn't die? Undying was indeed death, but not consciousness. "Oh," eldest uncle replied. "When the time comes, give her body to me. She can be considered a person to be nurtured. Nurture someone who can protect the plane and be of one mind, not someone who only knows how to cause trouble." Furthermore, witnessing the birth of a consciousness, it's quite exciting just thinking about it. Iron-willed straight men like you aren't suitable to raise children. Leave it to me. I will definitely nurture a soft and cute child. Uncle Zhang seemed to have already seen the birth of an ignorant consciousness that was like a blank sheet of paper. Then he would personally teach it. It was truly an interesting matter. The child that he nurtured would definitely be loved and doted on by the people in the organization. Grow up being doted on by the elders. And nurturing this bit of fun. He could instill his own thoughts into the other party. Then he would watch the child slowly grow up. His heart would be very satisfied. Just like planting flowers and trees, it would blossom and bear fruit. The Grand Elder and he were iron-willed straight men. Then, Uncle Zhang was a man who paid attention to feelings and thoughts. If one were to say that he was gay, then he wasn't. However, this tenderness seemed to be a little creepy here. In the world of reincarnation, His Excellency stroked the child's head. The corner of his mouth curled up. "So you did it? What did you do?" The child asked with a face full of curiosity. His eyes were big and his eyeballs were as black as ink. His eyes reflected bits and pieces of light. "I did what I should have done all along," His Excellency said. His Excellency being placed into the Sea of Law was actually the product of everyone's fanaticism. Because the Sea of Law couldn't hold on anymore, any method that could save the Sea of Law would be tried. Those who said that it was boring were also unwilling to die. They lamented that life was meaningless, but they wouldn't end their boring life. It was so contradictory and pretentious. "Humans." The child looked at His Excellency in confusion. His Excellency said, "You will know in the future." The moment Ning Shu merged into this body, the tip of her nose was filled with a thick smell of blood. Moreover, there was also a sharp killing intent that assaulted her face. Ning Shu flipped over and slashed the bedding with a knife. The bedding was stained with blood. "Still hiding? Son of a bitch, my face has been thrown away by you. If I kill you now, I will be killing you on behalf of the judge. Dirty thing, I will be enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens." Ning Shu wiped the blood on her face. A man raised a watermelon knife and slashed towards her. His face was ferocious and filled with hatred, as though there was some deep hatred between them. There were already a few wounds on her body, which meant that before she came, she had already been slashed a few times. The plot was not important. What was important now was to preserve her life. Ning Shu pulled on the door. The door was closed and it was a wooden door, but it was locked. What deep hatred, to lock her up and then slash her to death. Outside the house, there was a heart-wrenching scream of a woman. "Li Jianming, you can't do this. Quickly open the door. I beg you to let her go. She is your daughter, your daughter." Ning Shu, so the fiendish man in front of her, who was slashing her with a knife, was the father of this body. "I don't have such a dirty daughter. Talking about her will dirty my mouth." The man spat out a mouthful of thick phlegm, the knife in his hand still dripping blood. He raised the knife and slashed towards Ning Shu, who was in the corner. Ning Shu hugged her head, as though waiting for the butcher's knife to fall. When the man came in front of her, she kicked the man's weak spot. The fiendish man groaned and covered his lower body, his eyes rolled back in pain, and he cried out. Ning Shu grabbed the blanket and covered the man's body. The man's weak spot was injured, and he was covered by the blanket, unable to struggle for a long time. Ning Shu grabbed the stool, and through the thin blanket, she beat the man wildly. As she beat him, she screamed shrilly and stubbornly. Her sharp voice covered the man's cries of pain as she shouted, "Dad, don't kill me, let me go, it hurts so much." There were many people outside the courtyard. Some had already called the police, and some villagers were banging on the door from outside. /BK. Chapter 3101. Ning Shu endured the pain in her body and raised the bench to hit the man under the blanket. The man couldn't get out of the blanket and cried out in pain. Seeing that the door was about to open, Ning Shu immediately threw the blanket on the bed. With a bang, the door was pushed open. Everyone saw the man holding a knife and slashing at the girl in the corner who was covered in blood. "Li Jianming, stop it. Stop it." Everyone quickly stopped Li Jianming and found that he was also injured. He had a nosebleed and many parts of his body were bruised. But his condition wasn't as serious as the child in the corner. The girl was covered in blood, holding her head and shivering. She was mumbling something that couldn't be heard clearly. It seemed like she was scared out of her wits. Li Jianming struggled. He was furious. This son of a bitch actually hit him. She even kicked him in the crotch. He had just gotten up, but these people were holding him back. It was infuriating. "Let me go. I'm going to kill this bitch. Kill her." Li Jianming waved the knife in his hand. His face was full of anger and grievance. The police stopped him. "What right do you have to kill her? I'm her father. She actually did such a shameless thing. It's so embarrassing. Dirty thing." Li Jianming shouted righteously. I'm just saving the judge some trouble. Li Jing, are you in pain? A woman walked in and saw Ning Shu covered in blood. She didn't dare to touch her. She cried until her face was full of tears. Her originally dark and yellow face looked even worse. Ning Shu, I'm in pain. Of course I'm in pain. Ning Shu was sent to the hospital. Taking advantage of this gap, she accepted the plot. When she was sent to the hospital, the father kept insulting her as if she would pollute the world by living in this world. He even said that she shouldn't be sent to the hospital and that she should die. Ning Shu didn't care at all. She accepted the plot and sentenced the man to death. The person who commissioned this was called Li Jing. She was only 12 years old. The man who wanted to kill her with a knife and not let her live in this world was Li Jing's biological father. As for why he thought she was dirty, it was because when Li Jing was raped by her stepfather, Li Jianming found out. Then he wanted to kill his daughter because she was too dirty. Moreover, he was very righteous and wanted to kill her on behalf of the heavens. As for the stepfather, he seemed to have gone to play mahjong. When asked by the police, he directly said that she was not his biological daughter, so why couldn't he do it with her? Li Jing was hacked to death 14 times by her father. The plot was simple. The two men were very righteous. One thought that she was not his biological daughter, so what if he violated her? The other wanted to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and save the judge trouble. To enforce justice on behalf of the heavens was to kill his filthy daughter, to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. If Li Jianming killed Li Jing's stepfather later, Ning Shu could still reluctantly feel that he was enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens and could be considered a man. However, nothing happened to the stepfather. After the client died, he said that the client had seduced him. As for the murderer, Li Jianming, he was naturally punished. However, he was only sentenced to a few years in prison. He also said with certainty that he was not guilty. In fact, there were many unsolved mysteries in the world. Why would there be situations where people were evil to the good and kind to the evil? Most people bullied the weak and feared the strong. Evil people were so evil that people were afraid. The doctor treated the wounds on Ning Shu's body. Some of the wounds were so deep that the bones could be seen. Out of the operating room, Su Feng kept crying by the bed. She cried so much that Ning Shu did not know what to say. It seemed that the two men that this mother married were scumbags. Su Feng cried and said, "What are you going to do in the future? What are you going to do when something like this happens?" What could he do? He had to deal with the two scumbag fathers and then start a new life. He applied for legal protection. The law could not wake up the sleeping person above the power. If you did not look for the law would not look for you. Even if this matter became a big deal, so what? He could apply for a new name and a new identity and still live. As long as he did not live in this place, with so many people in the world, who would always pay attention to him, he could still live in a different place. However, with so many wounds on his body, he could not bleed for nothing. Don't cry. You're hurting my wounds. Ning Shu grimaced and said, "Oh, don't cry. Why didn't you tell me that something like this happened?" Su Feng asked. When the incident happened, she was working in the factory and was called back. Su Feng worked in a small factory next to her home. She worked overtime and only earned a little more than 1,000 to 2,000 yuan a month. She had to support her daughter and her husband. The client's stepfather usually did not work. He was idle and especially liked to play mahjong. Sometimes, he even used the family's money to gamble. Ning Shu asked, "Mom, will you divorce uncle?" Su Feng was stunned for a moment. She poured a glass of water for Ning Shu and said, "We'll talk about this when you get better." Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at her and said, "It seems that we won't divorce." Jing, Mom has already divorced once. If we divorce again, people will laugh at us. Also, don't make a fuss about this. It won't be good if it gets bigger. You still have to get married in the future. Ning Shu asked again, "Why doesn't uncle do anything and still needs you to support him? Why don't you want to leave him?" Her first marriage had failed, and then she had rushed into her second marriage. The second man was useless. Su Feng was like an old mother. Su Feng worked 12 hours a day. The The client did not go to school and had to spend time with an uncle who was not related to her by blood. It would be a waste not to eat a piece of fat meat in front of her. Ning Shu was not surprised that something happened. Also, this could be considered as the scumbag's stepfather betraying Su Feng. Su Feng actually wanted to cover it up. 80% of rape cases were committed by acquaintances. Teachers, classmates, friends, and even biological fathers were all potential rapists. Su Feng sighed and said, "Having a man at home makes me feel more at ease. No one will bully us. With a pillar of support, I feel more at ease. If it's just us, how can we live?" Ning Shu was speechless. It was good to have a man. Even if this man did not do anything, was lazy, and was at the card table every day. As long as there was a man, endless fighting spirit could be ignited in one's heart. An orphan and a widow were pitiful. Even if this man squandered all the things at home, it would be fine if he opened his mouth and stretched out his hand. Wang Jiong did nothing but lose money. Without him, the mother and daughter would live a better life. They did not even bear the basic family responsibilities. If something happened, the man would be able to shoulder his own responsibilities. Otherwise, outsiders would bully the family. It was a fantasy. Moreover, it would hurt the family. He understood that after Su Feng got divorced, she wanted to find a man to live with and bear the burden of life. But it was not such a man. She rushed into her second marriage. Chapter 3102. Ning Shu's heart did not waver. Su Feng was probably afraid to face life alone with a daughter. Ning Shu closed his eyes and rested. After this matter was resolved, he would leave and live in another place. People move and live, trees move and die. Why would he stay here when he knew that people would gossip about him? He was afraid of people gossiping and wanted to suppress this matter. Why would he stay here? Ning Shu could not figure it out. The conditions were already so bad. How bad could it be if he changed places? Fortunately, Su Feng did not accuse her of seducing Wang Jiong. Although she did not accuse her, she wanted her to suppress this matter. It was not that Su Feng did not feel Ning Shu's coldness, but she also understood. Her daughter had encountered such a thing and her heart ached. She hardened her heart and rushed in front of her ex-husband Li Jianming. Like a madman, she hit and scratched Li Jianming. He scratched Li Jianming's face, leaving streaks of blood. "You're crazy, bitch." Li Jianming glared at Su Feng. Su Feng's heart trembled. "She is your daughter. How can you do this?" If it was not for her good luck, her daughter would have become a corpse now. After giving birth to Li Jing, her stomach did not move for a long time. Just because she did not give birth to a son, Li Jianming did not want her anymore. He insisted on divorcing her and even threw her daughter to her. Regarding Wang Jiong doing such a thing to her daughter, Su Feng expressed that she really did not know. Perhaps her daughter did not dare to tell her. Su Feng's heart was about to be torn into two halves. She did not know what to do. Her daughter was ruined. Su Feng sat on the ground and wailed. Since the incident, she had been crying non-stop. Li Jianming's face was burning. If it was not for the police holding him back, Li Jianming would have beaten her up. After such a thing happened, the police of course had to understand the situation. Wang Jiong at the card table was also dragged to the police station. If it was not for her shamelessness, how could such a thing happen? It's already like this and she still has the nerve to live. I'm doing a good thing. Li Jianming sneered. Su Feng was dumbfounded, but she didn't know how to refute. She could only cry. Wang Jiong was indifferent and turned a blind eye to Su Feng's crying. He spread his hands and said to the police, "Look, it's not my fault. Even the girl's father said that it's his daughter's fault. Besides, Li Jing and I are not biological father and daughter. It's just a matter between a man and a woman. It's not a rape." Wang Jiong was fat. He often sat at the card table and did not do anything. He looked white and fat, like fermented white flour. Su Feng, on the other hand, was dry and dark. The victim was guilty. Su Feng felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't say what it was. Wang Jiong was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He said to Su Feng, "Even if I was wrong, I won't do this kind of thing again in the future." Let's just forget about it. You don't want to make trouble, right? Su Feng was a little doubtful and a little shaken. Are you really not going to do this kind of thing anymore? Wang Jiong immediately said, Of course, I won't do it again. If they didn't pursue the matter, Li Jianming and Wang Ji would definitely be fine. Besides, both of them were Li Jing's fathers. There was filial piety. As for what would happen in the future, Li Jing would definitely be ridiculed. Besides, Wang Jiong's promise was worse than a fart. A dog can't change its habit. Li Jianhua said, and that girl is fine. She even hit me. I'm her father. If Wang Jiong was fine, Li Jianming would also be fine. Li Jianming would not drag Wang Jiong into this. Su Feng was at a loss. She didn't know if she should believe Wang Jiong. Now Wang Jiong was her husband. Wang Jiong said, if you really don't want to, let's get a divorce. I believe you. But you have to write a promise that you won't do that kind of thing to Jingjing again. Su Feng was defeated when she heard about divorce. I can write a promise. With the police as a witness, I won't go back on my word. Wang Jiong immediately asked for a pen and paper. After thinking about it, he was too lazy to even write. He asked the police to help him write and he dictated. When Ning Shu woke up, Su Feng took out Wang Jiong's promise and showed it to Ning Shu. She said, Your uncle has promised that he won't do that kind of thing to you again. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu looked at Su Feng in disbelief. What was the use of a promise? What deterrence did it have? Su Feng was in her 30s, but her mind felt like that of a teenager. Women were often swayed by all kinds of words. But when they were given a piece of paper, they were forgiven. The content of the paper made Ning Shu want to laugh. Su Feng saw that Ning Shu was not speaking. She put the paper away, folded it, and put it in her bag. She said to Ning Shu, Jingjing, you're going to get married in the future. It won't be good for anyone if this gets out of hand. Ning Shu said, He raped me more than once. Jingjing, my poor child, Su Feng said as she hugged Ning Shu and cried. Ning Shu was speechless. What did this have to do with her life? It was just a matter of fate. What poor life? This was someone else hurting her. What did it have to do with her life? She could comfort herself and others by saying that she had a poor life. She would say the same thing all the time. Life was also quite innocent. She would push everything onto her life. Ning Shu did not comfort Su Feng as she cried helplessly. He just let her hug him and cry. It was probably because she couldn't cry anymore. Su Feng was a little scared by Ning Shu's calmness. Jing, don't take things too hard. You are my life. If I wasn't afraid that you wouldn't have a father, I wouldn't have gotten married so quickly. I heard that single-parent families are not good for children. I don't want people to say that you don't have a father. Would a single-parent child have a stepfather to rape her? Get married for the sake of the child? Ning Shu waved his hand, indicating that he would not take the blame. He could not take it. Not getting a divorce was for the sake of the child. Getting a divorce and getting married was also for the sake of the child. The child was about to become the new generation's scapegoat. Wang Jiong and Li Jianming were detained at the police station. They would observe the situation first. If they did not pursue the matter, they would definitely be released. After all, it was a family matter. It was just a family matter that had blown up a little. No matter what Su Feng said, Ning Shu did not shake his head or nod. In the end, Su Feng did not know what to say. When Su Feng quietened down, Ning Shu said to Su Feng, Mom, since you got married for me, then you can also get a divorce for me, right? Then can we get a divorce? Let's move to another place. What do these rumors have to do with us? Move to another place. We can't listen to what others say. The mouths belong to others. They could not control what others said, but they could choose not to listen. Starting a new life was not bad. Chapter 3103. Since it had already happened and so many people had seen it, they thought that if they didn't do anything and suppressed it, others would stop gossiping and talking about it. What else could they talk about if they didn't talk about these things? Any topic that involved color was the most explosive. So, since everyone was going to talk about it, why should she let herself be wronged? The worst outcome would be losing a man. It was just an extra pound of flesh. It wasn't that big of a deal. Having a man meant having a backbone, even if this backbone was a piece of trash. They were clearly living together, but in the end, it was worse than being a widow or a divorced single parent. Why did she jump into it even though she knew it was a trap? She actually didn't want to come out after jumping in. This way, she would still be a woman wanted by a man. If she left this man, no one would want her. Her daughters suddenly wanted a divorce. This made it difficult for Su Feng to answer. After a while, she said, "Jing Jing, let Mom think about this. Let's settle this peacefully first." Ning Shu only made an "oh" sound and said to her, "You go back and rest first. You don't have to stay here. Help me bring food when you come." "Thank you." Su Feng nodded. "Why are you thanking Mom? You're my daughter." Yes, she was a good mother. Su Feng was quite contradictory. In some aspects, she did seem to dote on her daughter. But in other aspects, she was probably dragging a burden down. It wouldn't be good for her to get married. Moreover, she had divorced twice. She would be laughed at again. Ning Shu used her uninjured hand to pull the blanket. She had slept on her side. Her back and spine had been cut. If it had been a little more dangerous, she would probably have been paralyzed. Her spine was broken. After careful calculation, there were 4 wounds on her body. The client had been slashed 14 times before dying. Ning Shu felt that if she had come a little later, even if she had survived, she might have been a cripple. Life was a tragedy in capital letters. Ning Shu peacefully recuperated. After she recovered, she would fight again. At the same time, she cultivated. She felt that she hadn't cultivated a peerless martial art in a long time. There was no spirit energy in the hospital. Instead, it was filled with the aura of decay and death. It was a little familiar. Ning Shu felt that death wasn't so scary. No matter what happened now, she could use her strength to fight. "I'm not even afraid of death, so what's there to be afraid of?" Without spiritual energy, Ning Shu could only absorb other types of energy, such as the power of the fiery sun. However, it wasn't of much help in healing injuries. The power of the sun flame was more violent and its attack power was strong. It didn't have the gentleness of spiritual energy and could heal injuries. There were 2 men on the other side. As a child, she was no match for them in terms of combat power. In addition, there was also Su Feng, whose stance was constantly wavering. As a child, she definitely wouldn't be able to win. Children were immoral and needed a guardian for everything they did. If Su Feng disagreed, no matter how many plans she had, they would all go down the drain. Ning Shu pondered in his heart. Su Feng touched Ning Shu's face and sighed. She said to Ning Shu, "Have a good rest. Don't think too much. Mom is here." Ning Shu nodded and watched as Su Feng opened the door and left. After stuffing a fasting pill into his mouth, he felt full, and his body felt much more energetic. It was just that his wound hurt. When he got up to go to the toilet, it affected his wound. It hurt so much that Ning Shu grimaced in pain. He should get the doctor to give him some painkillers. Right now, Ning Shu hated pain and other people hurting his face the most. A policeman came to question him. He sat by the bed and asked Ning Shu some questions. For example, what had happened? Ning Shu honestly told him about the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd times that Wang Zhiyong had violated her, including the details of how he had touched her body and how she had felt. He also told him what Wang Jiwen had said. Then he was locked in the house by his biological father and hacked. He showed his wound and said that he was almost crippled. The policeman originally thought that the child would cry, but the other party told it in such detail. Instead, it made the policeman's face turn red. It was too detailed. Especially on the face of a young girl, he said something that would make people embarrassed. He coughed and said, "Your stepfather has already written a letter of guarantee. Your mother has already signed the statement." Ning Shu asked, "What about my father?" "He hurt me." Ning Shu wasn't surprised that Su Feng did this. But Li Jianming had obviously attempted murder and he didn't think that he was in the wrong. How could he just let it go like that? Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at the policeman. He asked with a confused face, "Even minors who commit crimes are protected. Why didn't I commit a crime and was hurt? Why didn't you protect me? I want to apply for protection. I am a victim." My mother's signature can't be my will. When I go back, my stepfather will still violate me. My biological father will still want to kill me. He wants to purify the world and eliminate this dirty thing like me. Ning Shu's face was full of grievance, fear, and despair. With so many emotions mixed on his face, it made Ning Shu's face contort. He asked, "Will there be policemen living in our house? I'm very scared. I am so scared that I want to climb upstairs and jump down." "As long as you jump down, you won't encounter these things." Ning Shu cried until a bubble came out of his nose. He quickly sniffed it back. The policeman took a tissue and handed it to Ning Shu. "Don't cry. Don't cry." Ning Shu grabbed the policeman's hand. "Then what should I do?" "Both fathers will take revenge on me. I don't have long to live. Why don't I just jump down?" The two policemen looked at each other. This matter was not easy to solve. They also knew that what this girl said was true. Even if the police station and the biological father said that he was not in the wrong, he still didn't think that he was in the wrong. He felt that his daughter was dirty. Ning Shu felt that if Li Jianming's son was raped by a chicken, he definitely wouldn't kill his son. Instead, he would fight with Wang Jiong. Eliminating the dirty daughter was enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Ning Shu expressed his admiration. He had never seen such an operation. No, there were many such operations. There were many women in pig cages. The hero saved the beauty, killed the beauty, and then got together with the bully who bullied the beauty. They held hands and were happy. Then this kind of action was called the hero saving the beauty. Wasn't it ridiculous? There were thousands of principles in the world. Someone like this was really speechless. Ning Shu was crying very sadly. Her voice was sobbing, low and depressed. People who passed by the ward thought that there was a ghost. The policeman was also helpless. He said, "But your guardian has already signed." Ning Shu cried and said, "It's okay. I know that uncles are in a difficult position. I hope that the next time we meet, you won't see my corpse. Can you give me a special treatment? I wrote a love letter. I already have my own thoughts. I can handle things." Ning Shu wiped his tears. "I'm underage. There is a law protecting underage children." Chapter 3104. Minors have the right to survival, development, protection, participation, and other rights. They should be given special and priority protection according to the physical and mental development characteristics of minors to ensure that minors' legal rights are not violated. "Uncle, my life is now threatened. I'm scared, very scared," Ning Shu said as his body trembled. "If your guardian doesn't agree, this matter can't be carried out." "It's okay, I can make my own decisions. My mother is an adult and has many concerns. I'm a child, I can't think so far ahead. I don't want to die. I can seek legal help, can't I?" Ning Shu looked at the police with tears in his eyes. How should he put it? It couldn't be, right? They had already mentioned the protection of minors. The most difficult thing to deal with was this little girl. If he refuted, wouldn't he be saying that the law was useless? Then write a love letter, we'll take it to the police station to deal with it. There will be a lot of gossip when the time comes. There would definitely be a lot of people talking about it. Even if it's going to be reported, won't they censor me? Ning Shu asked. Even criminals would be censored when they were reported. She was a victim, a girl at that. Shouldn't she censor her face too? Police. Children were not to be trifled with, not to be trifled with. When the police left, Ning Shu said, "Uncles, please detain them properly. Once they are released, they will definitely come to the hospital. They will definitely kill me. Police. Don't worry, we will detain them first." Ning Shu smiled at the police with snot and tears on his face. "Thank you. If this matter was not handled locally, then it could only be handled in another place. Children had no human rights and no dignity. Even if there was anything, it was up to the guardian." Ning Shu slowly lay down. It hurt. Women had to be kind and elegant, but they also had to have a sharp edge and a sharp edge. Without a sharp edge and a sharp edge, kindness was not kindness. If they gave in now, they would be kindness. Ning Shu sneered. Stop joking. They had different views. How could they expect the two fathers to know their mistakes and change? No, they thought that they were not wrong. Not only were they not wrong, but they had also contributed. Not only did they get rid of a dirty thing, they also saved the judge some trouble. At least they had learned some witchcraft laws, but he didn't know if they could be used. Ning Shu was lying on the hospital bed, cursing the two of them under her breath. He cursed Wang Jiong's prostatitis, causing him to die of pain when he went to the toilet and then radiating to his balls. He cursed Li Jianming's knife to fall on the back of his foot. Ning Shu could not use the power of laws, so he could only curse a few small things. As for whether or not it would be of any use, that was not certain. It was a pity that the law of prophecy was wasted. Perhaps with the addition of prophecy, it might have been effective. The next day, Su Feng went to the hospital and brought some food. Ning Shu angrily asked, "I went to the police station and heard that you wrote a love letter. Jing Jing, what do you want? An arm can't win against a thigh. We're all family." Su Feng was worried sick. She looked like she was about to cry. She couldn't help but complain, "Why are you so disobedient?" Ning Shu asked, "Why not? With the help of the law and free lawyers, it's just a waste of time." Both sides had the same status, so the outcome was already very clear. Others wouldn't be touched if she still wronged herself like this. Ning Shu asked, "What if Dad kills me when we go back?" "How can that be? They should know that they were wrong." Ning Shu was speechless. How stupid was it to put her life in the hands of others? Did she hope that the other party would be merciful and let her go? Or did she let the other party violate her and use love to influence her stepfather? Did she stretch her neck and let her biological father kill her? Ning Shu really wanted to tell Su Feng that this was impossible. If she didn't resist, she would be bullied to death. What was the use of crying at that time? It was useless to cry. She could only risk her life. If she was going to die anyway, she would rather drag the other party down with her. The blame on Su Feng's face made Ning Shu shut up. He couldn't wake up a person who was pretending to be asleep, so he didn't want to waste his saliva. Su Feng was hoping for a fluke. Maybe it would pass just like this. Maybe she would be safe and happy in the future. There was no benefit in making a scene. This marriage might collapse. Su Feng might not be able to accept another divorce. What a tough life. Su Feng wiped her tears as she scooped rice for Ning Shu and fed it to her. This made Ning Shu feel rather helpless. It wasn't bad for her daughter, but it was good. She chose to smooth things over on this matter. She didn't dare to take a step forward. She was surrounded by dog poop. Perhaps she was used to it and was used to it. She couldn't recognize the stench after smelling it for a long time. "Mom, this matter won't end like this. Since we've already made a scene, the two fathers will think that we provoked them. Since we've already done it, we should do it thoroughly. I need your support. In the future, I'll take care of you when you're old and let you live a comfortable life. Without a father, there won't be a man. The two of us can live a comfortable life. We can spend the money we earn ourselves. We can buy whatever we want. Uncle won't use the money to gamble. We can do whatever we want. Isn't this kind of life good?" Even if it was a little strange, it was a comfortable life. Su Feng shook her head. "You're still young. Some things aren't that simple." Ning Shu asked, "How complicated can it be?" It was just a matter of whether she was willing to do it or not. Fear, panic. "Mom, Dad wants to kill me now. Can you protect me?" Ning Shu asked. Su Feng had been outside the door before. Su Feng couldn't do anything about what happened inside. Sometimes, the body was just so magical. It felt like Su Feng was a trash receptacle. The men she met were either trash or cheap. It made people sink into a swamp where they couldn't move. At this time, it was time to fight. "Then, will you send your father and uncle to the classroom?" Su Feng asked. "When they come out, won't it be the same?" Ning Shu said, "When they come out, I'll be all grown up. And it's not certain if they can find me." The matter now hadn't been settled, yet she was still worried about the future. If it wasn't settled, there would be no future. Worrying about the future now was pointless. Ning Shu grabbed Su Feng's hand and said seriously, "Mom, believe me. What haven't I experienced before? Even after something like this happened, I can still calm down. What I need to do now is to not let this happen to me again. The client was a minor. This identity was a restriction. If the client was an adult, she could do whatever she wanted. It was also okay to leave this place. Try to win Su Feng over to his side. If Su Feng was still like this, Ning Shu would give up and do his own thing. He didn't need to worry about her. Even if he didn't have the money to find a lawyer, he had the support of a lawyer. If he won the case, he had to make the other party pay. Compensation for psychological damage was a must. Chapter 3105. Ning Shu said everything she wanted to say, but Su Feng just kept feeding her and didn't say anything. The food didn't taste very good, and Ning Shu had already eaten the fasting pill, so she didn't want to eat anymore. She shook her head and said, "I don't want to eat anymore." "Is it not to your taste? What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you." "What do you want to eat?" Su Feng stopped feeding her. Ning Shu looked at Su Feng and asked, "Mom, what do you think?" Su Feng was a little embarrassed, and she didn't even dare to look into Ning Shu's eyes. Since the incident, her daughter hadn't cried, made a fuss, or panicked, but she had her own ideas, which made Su Feng feel at a loss. Her eyes flickered and she said to Ning Shu, "Jing Jing, it's not that simple. Even if you want to get a divorce, you have to wait until this incident is over." "Why do you have to wait until this incident is over? Just do it together. You can't bear to leave him? Didn't you say that you got married for me? You were afraid that I wouldn't have a father. Now I don't want a father. Father hurt me so much, and I want you to leave him. Are you willing to leave him for me? Since you got married for the child, you should get a divorce for the child, okay? You said it was for the child." Su Feng looked a little embarrassed. "Jing Jing, you might not know about adult matters. It's not as simple as getting married and getting a divorce. Wasn't marriage so easy? Finding a man to live with, then getting a divorce was just packing up and leaving. Moreover, there was no gold or silver mine waiting to be divided at home. It could be said that there was nothing at home." Ning Shu said, "Since Mom doesn't want to get a divorce, then forget it. Let's not get a divorce." Ning Shu's sudden change surprised Su Feng. It wasn't that she didn't want to get a divorce, but they had just gotten married. If they got a divorce again, they would be laughed at. If they got a divorce and got married again, it would be the third marriage. "It's okay. We won't live with Uncle anyway," Ning Shu said. Su Feng was confused and asked, "Why?" Ning Shu said, "Uncle has already committed the crime of raping a woman. Whether I'm willing or not, he has to go to jail. While he's in jail, we'll live our own lives." Su Feng was shocked. She didn't know what was going on and asked in a panic, "Do I have to go to jail?" She thought that Wang Jiong would be fine after writing the guarantee, but she didn't expect that he would still go to jail. Seeing her daughter staring at her, Su Feng suppressed the complicated feelings in her heart and muttered, "How could this be?" So, whether he admits his mistake or not, and whether he writes a guarantee or not, he has to go to jail. And we. Ning Shu pointed at Su Feng and himself with his uninjured hand. "We both offended Dad and Uncle. If she came forward, the nature of this matter would become even worse. Perhaps he would be locked up for 5 or 6 years. If she came forward, the punishment would be increased according to the situation. Treating a child like this, whether it was raping her or trying to kill her, such a crazy person, if he didn't increase his sentence, would it be a lighter sentence? It wasn't as simple as just letting them go to jail." Su Feng's face was pale, and she asked Ning Shu in a daze, "Can't we settle this privately?" The people here didn't have a strong sense of the law, and the place was a bit remote. They were so ignorant that they could objectify women like this. They were clearly killing people, clearly hurting a person, but they could be so righteous and not feel that they were wrong. It was so terrible. What did it matter if he smashed or broke something when he was unhappy about it? Women were just things. Of course, it could be settled privately, and these two people wouldn't even be punished. This was a family matter and everything could be settled. But Ning Shu didn't want to. Why should she be so magnanimous when others hurt her? Why should she write a petition to prove that these people didn't hurt her? Sorry, I can't write, my hand is lame. Su Feng carried the thermos, looked at the calm Ning Shu, and finally sighed. Ning Shu almost said with a smile, Mom, you offended 2 men. These 2 men won't let you and me go. Being locked up for a year was a grudge, and being locked up for 10 years was also a grudge. Moreover, they were imprisoned because of a woman, which was enough to make Li Jianming and Wang Jiong bear a grudge. Su Feng's hand loosened, and the thermos fell to the ground. The sound was like hitting a person's heart, and Su Feng was startled. Seeing Su Feng's pale face, Ning Shu said, Mom, don't be afraid. Even if the 2 fathers are really released from prison and want to kill us, I will die with you. Su Feng squatted down to pick up the thermos, and her hands were shaking. She knew her ex-husband too well. He could even kill his own daughter. She was just an ex-wife, and he would definitely kill her out of anger. Li Jianming was very grumpy. If he wasn't grumpy, he wouldn't have cut people with a knife. Ning Shu watched Su Feng leave and curled his lips. Su Feng's heart was still with the 2 men. Although it wasn't necessarily with her ex-husband, she was definitely with her current husband and Wang Jiong. He didn't know what was good about Wang Jiong. He was simply a scum with a bad character. Raping his stepdaughter, to a certain extent, was also a betrayal of Su Feng. Su Feng didn't even find Wang Jiong to make trouble. Ning Shu felt that the lying skills of men didn't change at all. Since ancient times, there were only a few excuses. She seduced me. I just made a mistake that all men in the world would make. Drinking alcohol. As a person who knew a little about medicine, drinking alcohol was simply questioning medicine. After drinking alcohol, the hardness of the little brother was simply not good. Drinking alcohol was just an excuse. An old excuse that couldn't keep up with the rapidly evolving women. Be a little more careful, and at least keep up with the pace of the times. Of course, there were also many women who believed in these excuses. Su Feng went to the police station and consulted with the police about this matter. The police said that this was a criminal case. Wang Jiong was guilty of rape and Li Jianming was guilty of intentional murder, although it was an attempted murder. Su Feng walked out of the police station with a light foot and a heavy foot. She even went to see her ex-husband and husband in the detention center. The 2 men were furious. They asked Su Feng not to let them go to jail no matter what. They also asked Li Jing to deny that they did these things to her. Wang Jiong grabbed the bars and shouted to Su Feng, I didn't do those things to her. If I'm arrested and sent to jail, you'll be a widow and an orphan. How are you going to live? I'll treat you and Jing Jing well in the future. Wang Jiong gritted his teeth as he spoke. If he wasn't afraid of going to jail, he wouldn't have said such things. Li Jianming also promised, I won't care about her in the future. She can sleep with whoever she wants. Hearing Li Jianming's tone, there was disdain and displeasure. Chapter 3106. Wang Jiong probably felt embarrassed that he was forced to admit his mistake. He didn't feel that he was in the wrong. Su Feng was uneasy. Her scalp was numb and she was at a loss. Her mind was in a mess. She didn't know how to solve this problem. How to solve it perfectly. Her heart ached for her daughter, but she didn't want to see the 2 of them being sent to jail. Why did this happen? To Su Feng, it was like an earthquake in her life. It was like a tsunami that destroyed her peaceful and blissful life. She was afraid and wanted to escape. Talk to Jing Jing properly. This isn't good for anyone. Wang Jiong said to Su Feng, I didn't do that to Jing Jing. When the time comes, let her tell the police that this is all a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Su Feng, I'll be good to you and Jing Jing in the future. If I really go to work and leave you 2 as orphans and widows, I'll feel terrible. Wang Jiong's tone was sincere. I really know my mistake. I really know my mistake. Su Feng was doubtful. Really? Wang Jiong quickly nodded. Really? Su Feng left the police station. She wanted to talk to her daughter about this, but she couldn't face her daughter. Her daughter's gaze made her feel uncomfortable and embarrassed. It was as if everything in her heart was exposed under the sun. She really loved Jing Jing. She did all this to give Jing Jing a stable life. If things got out of hand, Jing Jing was still a child. What would she do if she had to face the gossip around her? Jing Jing still had to get married and have children in the future. Her life couldn't be ruined like this. What if Jing Jing couldn't get married in the future? Her life would be ruined. Although Su Feng was mentally preparing herself, she didn't dare to face her daughter. On the other hand, Ning Shu welcomed a few groups of relatives. Some were from his grandmother's side, some were from his biological grandmother's side, and some were from Wang Zhiyong's parents. His grandmother's side said, "What are you doing? Are you making your mother get a divorce again? Do you know that if your mother gets a divorce again, she won't be able to get married? You have to think about your mother. Furthermore, something like this has happened. She can't wait to cover it up. You're so thick-skinned. It's your mother's second marriage. It's hard for other people to deal with your mother." Her biological grandmother's house, which was also Li Jianming's house. "You wretched girl, you want to send your biological father to prison? He raised you up and gave you a life. Is this how you repay your father? How can you be so unfilial? You've completely disgraced the Li family. Wherever you go, people will criticize you. Who in the world would send their own father to the servants' quarters? Wang Zhiyong's family. When your mother married into the Wang family, she had to drag you down with her. You didn't eat enough and wear enough clothes. If my Zhiyong didn't take you and your mother in, I don't know what kind of life you and your mother would be living. Ning Shu, living a good life. Your Wang Zhiyong is amazing. He's at the mahjong table every day and even sends food to him." A group of people crowded in the ward, buzzing noisily as they surrounded the bed. Ning Shu used the blanket to wipe his face. His face was splashed with a lot of saliva. "Stinks. I don't care what you say. I won't move. I'll just close my eyes and rest." When Su Feng arrived at the hospital, she saw so many people. Her mother's family and her two husbands' families were all there. Her heart trembled. Seeing a new target, these people turned their attention to Su Feng. They surrounded Su Feng and talked to her one after another. Moreover, they said words that pierced her heart. Su Feng's face was extremely pale and she was terrified. Everyone put their hands on their hips and criticized Su Feng, who was in the middle. Su Feng could only deal with these people and promised them according to their wishes. Only after promising that the two men wouldn't go to jail and that nothing would happen to them did these people leave satisfied. They weren't here to visit the patient. They didn't even bring any fruit. The moment they came, they made a lot of noise. Everyone disapproved of the two men going to jail. Once they left, Su Feng let out a long breath. She was very dispirited. Ning Shu forced a smile and said, "Jing Jing, look. Everyone disagrees." Ning Shu said indifferently, "What does it have to do with me whether they agree or not? It wasn't like they were the ones who were raped." Su Feng choked. After a while, she said, "Jing Jing, your Uncle Wang said that he will treat you well in the future. Your father won't care about you anymore." Ning Shu said, "Oh, what do you need me to do?" Su Feng also knew that what she said was wrong, but she still told Ning Shu what Wang Zhiyong and Li Jianming said in the detention center. Instead of causing trouble for everyone, it's better to take a step back. It's not that I want you to suffer for nothing, but that your Uncle Wang will treat you better. Not to mention that Su Feng wasn't smart, ordinary people were smart. Instead of causing trouble, it was better to get some benefits from it and not be laughed at. Even if they were laughed at, their lives would return to the past. Ning Shu looked at Su Feng. "What if he assaults me again?" "No, he won't dare. After this incident, he definitely won't do it again." "What if Dad wants to kill me?" Ning Shu asked. "He won't, Jing Jing. Mom will protect you." Ning Shu, "Can you be with me every day? Inseparable?" With those men's morals, could she believe their words? She was showing weakness now because she didn't want to go to jail. That was just a compromise. How could Su Feng believe it? In order to make Su Feng believe it, she had to pay with her life. When she died, Su Feng would naturally believe it. But by then, everyone would be dead. Ning Shu glanced at Su Feng and said, "I'm going to sleep. You can leave first." She wouldn't say anything useless to Su Feng anymore. Su Feng wouldn't listen to her. "Jing Jing." Su Feng looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu just said, "Mom, I'm in pain. I want to sleep. Can you not disturb me? She didn't agree or disagree. She just kept silent, which made Su Feng's heart uneasy. Jing Jing, just now your grandma and grandma came over to talk, Su Feng shouted. Ning Shu, I already said that I'm going to sleep. Is there anything else? Then have a good rest. What do you want to eat? Mom will make it for you, Su Feng asked. Ning Shu said lightly, it's up to you. She wasn't hungry. She didn't want to eat at all, especially when there was a sense of bad motherly love in it. She couldn't say that Su Feng was wrong, but from the standpoint of the client, she really felt wronged. She was hurt. People all over the world were asking her to forgive the person who hurt her. And the person who hurt her might hurt her again in the future. If these people blocked for her in the future and replaced her when she was raped, she would forgive them. Chapter 3107. Otherwise, the price of forgiveness would be too high. With just a few words from these people, she would have to bear all the risks. And it was simply incredible. And if she forgave them, when she returned home in the future, she would not have to face these people's heartache and gratitude. Instead, she would have to face the ridicule and disdain of these people. So, forgive your numbness. Since it was already like this, no one would have a good life. There was no reason for one person to be so miserable. As for whether it would be ruined or not, that would depend on one's mentality. I'm not afraid of men not wanting me. Whether I'm dirty or not, whether I was raped or not, it's none of your business. I don't accept your criticism. I'm not fucking married to you. What right do you have to criticize me? As for whether they feel inferior or not, the ones who feel inferior and ashamed should be those beasts. After being bitten by a dog, do you still have to think about it for the rest of your life? Whether my life is ruined or not, that's my own business. What does it have to do with you? Ning Shu slept well every day, took medicine well, and recuperated well. He tried to recover as soon as possible. After setting up a spirit gathering formation, he did not absorb much spirit energy. There was only a strand of spirit energy every few days. It was like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood for the recovery of his wounds. At least there was some spirit energy. Su Feng would send 2 meals a day. Because of this incident, she could not go to work. If she was not rushing to the hospital, she would be going to the police station. Su Feng had lost a lot of weight and her face was extremely sallow. It seemed that she had been under too much pressure during this period. Even though she was rushing to and fro, there was still no progress. Ning Shu did not relent. Meanwhile, in the detention center, 2 men were waiting for Su Feng. After leaving the ward, Su Feng squatted in the corridor and sobbed. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She lamented her hard life. Why was her life so hard? Did she not have the right to be happy? After marrying Li Jianming, she did not have a son. Li Jianming beat and scolded her. After divorcing, she married Wang Jiong with her daughter. Although Wang Jiong was a bit lazy and loved to play mahjong, he would not beat her for no reason. Sometimes, he would even say a few nice words to warm her heart. She only needed a man to accompany her and provide her with spiritual support. That was enough. Compared to Li Jianming, Wang Jiong was not bad. Su Feng compared Wang Jiong among the scumbags and felt that Wang Jiong was a slightly better scumbag. Ning Shu looked at Su Feng and asked, Mom, I'll support you in your old age. When I grow up and earn money, I'll take good care of you. I can do whatever a man can do. If you're really afraid of not having a man, you can find a boyfriend. If we're not suitable for each other, we can break up. Isn't that great? There's no need for a divorce. Ning Shu was just short of directly saying that if she needed a man, then she could just find a man to comfort her. If they were not suitable for each other, then they could separate and have boyfriends of equal status. If she were to say it out loud, Su Feng would probably label her with a shocking label. Su Feng was a traditional woman. Su Feng's tears immediately flowed out. She hugged Ning Shu and cried, saying how hard their lives were. Hee, what fate. Ning Shu said, Are you going to divorce Uncle Wang or not? Ning Shu no longer wanted to entangle with Su Feng. She directly asked if she chose Wang Jiong, she would give up Su Feng. If Su Feng chose them, they could rely on each other and lead a good life. Now, Su Feng was in so much pain because she wanted to choose both sides. Su Feng said, "Jing Jing." Ning Shu asked, "Are you going to divorce?" Su Feng took a deep breath. "I'm not going to divorce." "Jing Jing, you have to think about Mom." Ning Shu was really confused. She had already said that when the matter was resolved, she would leave with Su Feng and start a new life. Living anywhere was still living. Why did she have to stay here? Why couldn't Su Feng's brain work? Even if she wanted a man, there were plenty of men. She could just find another man somewhere else. Ning Shu looked at Su Feng in confusion. Could it be that Su Feng truly loved Wang Jiong? For a woman to give her heart out, what else could it be other than love? Ning Shu shivered deeply. What a scary feeling of being touched. She even wanted to be touched with him. Should they reform Wang Jiong together? Then, they would be happy together and let Wang Jiong do whatever he wanted to her. Ning Shu sneered. Reform? Sorry, she wouldn't. She would only cremate him. She didn't have such sentiments. She wanted to save the world and reform everyone in the world. She could become Buddha by putting down the butcher's knife. Look, she was so kind to the evil and so evil to the good. Was this fair to the kind? Ning Shu no longer had any hope for Su Feng. What Su Feng was doing now was nothing more than a little love for the client, but this love was obviously insignificant. The client's age was really making him bald. A 12-year-old child without a guardian was an orphan. If he dragged Su Feng to live with him, at least he would have a guardian and not an orphan. But Su Feng had too many things that she couldn't let go of. She wouldn't leave this place. Was she going to make the client an orphan? However, the person who had entrusted the mission was still here. Could he really survive the rumors and slanders? Furthermore, he might even be killed by Li Jianming. After all, Li Jianming was the messenger of justice. Ning Shu sighed. It seemed that it was time to apply for a new identity. Usually, when such a situation happened, the country would give the client some protection and change their identity. Usually, when the client changed their identity, they would be cut off from their previous family. They would no longer be Su Feng's child. Li Jianming would also no longer be her father. She should also apologize to Su Feng. No matter how much she couldn't bear to leave Wang Jiong still had to stay in jail. She was alone and lonely. It had been hard on her. But after doing such a thing, how could Su Feng still stay in the Wang family and Wang Jiong's family not vent their anger on her? It was impossible to have the best of both worlds. Ning Shu felt that as long as she did things her way, she would cut off Su Feng's path. Su Feng, who had no other path, would follow her. She wanted to work together with her daughter. But now, there was no need to be polite. In the eyes of others, she and Su Feng were one. Whatever she did, Su Feng would do. After she did what she did, it would be impossible for Su Feng to stay in this place. During this period, the police came a few times to collect documents. Lawyers also came. The legal aid lawyers came to understand the situation from Ning Shu. Ning Shu had been a lawyer before. She knew she had to explain everything to the lawyers. This way, when she went to court, she would have a higher chance of winning. The injuries on her body were checked, and she even did AS test. The report showed that she was no longer a virgin. Ning Shu was glad that the client was not on her period. If not, she would be pregnant. A 12-year-old child was pregnant. This was simply a tragedy. These documents were all prepared and could be used as evidence in court. Chapter 3108. Li Jianming and Wang Jiong didn't have any background, so they weren't able to play with the law and hire a team of lawyers. Therefore, these two people were definitely going to be lawyers. But she couldn't just let them go to jail. She had to let people know that these two people were beasts. If they were beasts, they would kill her in the future. It was also convenient to apply for a new identity. When Su Feng saw the lawyer, she was extremely shocked. She quickly asked Ning Shu, "Who is this? A lawyer?" "Jing Jing, what do you want to do?" Ning Shu said, "I'm a victim. I have to go to court. No matter what the situation is, I have to explain it clearly." "But why do you need a lawyer?" "Jing Jing, our family has no money. We can't afford a lawyer," Su Feng said. It's a lawyer from legal aid. It doesn't cost much, Ning Shu said calmly. Su Feng was very anxious. What do you want to do? Whatever you want me to say, I will say it in court. Don't worry, Ning Shu said. Su Feng was very surprised. Really, Jing Jing? Don't call me Jing Jing. I really want to be Jing Jing right now. On the day of the trial, Ning Shu went to the court with injuries all over her body. When it was her turn, Ning Shu used half a bottle of eye drops. Her tears flowed down like water. The two men stood at the side and glared at Ning Shu to warn her. Ning Shu walked slowly. She had to rest for a while after every step. She wore a mask to cover her face. If someone were to take photos, she definitely couldn't reveal her real face. Although Ning Shu was sobbing and her tears were like running water, she clearly explained the ins and outs of the matter. The lawyer also took out the injury examination report. When she said that she was sad, Ning Shu cried loudly. Her voice was filled with fear and her body was trembling. This made Wang Jiong and Li Jianming stare at Ning Shu. Their eyes almost popped out. They looked at Su Feng, who was sitting in the gallery. This was different from what they had said. Su Feng also looked at her daughter in shock. She was also very angry. Why didn't she listen? Li Jianming had a bad temper. After being treated like this by his daughter, how dare she treat him like this? He immediately shouted, "What did I do wrong? It's a damn woman who shamelessly did such a thing. It's so dirty and shameless. I only hate that I didn't chop her to death." Ning Shu's body trembled. The lawyer immediately said, Li Jianming always wanted to kill the victim, and he didn't think he was in the wrong. He didn't know that he had caused harm to others. Li Jianming glared at the lawyer angrily. The one who deserves to die is that girl. She's really raised by a bitch. How embarrassing. Ning Shu kept wiping his tears as he sobbed. His voice was filled with despair as it echoed in everyone's ears. "Dad, don't kill me. Don't kill me. I didn't do it. Uncle Wang forced me. More than once. He told me not to tell anyone. If I did, he would throw me away. He wouldn't let me study anymore. I was so scared. He forced me every time. I refused, but he pressed on." Wang Jiong's expression was ferocious. "Stop spouting nonsense. You were the one who seduced me." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. "A child who had just started to develop seduced you." Ning Shu shook his head. "I didn't. You came over when I was doing my homework. You touched me." Su Feng, who was listening in, was about to be eaten up by the group of relatives and friends. All of them were making things difficult for her. Look at what a good daughter she raised. She actually came to the court to say such a thing. It's so dirty. I'm embarrassed to say it. If Jiong goes to jail, get lost. Get lost from the Wang family. Divorce. You have to get a divorce. She was punished by the heavens. She sent her own father to jail. What a shameless girl. Why didn't they chop her to death back then? These people stretched out their fingers and poked Su Feng's face. Su Feng couldn't refute them. She lowered her head as if she was the one who had done something wrong. What should she do in the future? What should she do? Su Feng was anxious. Everyone was blaming her. Wang Jiong's family was going to kick her out of the house. Was she going to get a divorce? It was really too tiring. This daughter of hers? Su Feng was angry and helpless. She hugged her head. She couldn't see the future clearly. She wanted to drink pesticide and be done with it. It was a mess. The judge knocked on the gavel. "Silence, silence. Keep quiet." Ning Shu squatted down and curled into a ball. He was shivering and begging, "Don't hurt me. Don't kill me. Don't kill me." The lawyers of both sides didn't argue much. The situation was already very clear. Two fathers. One attempted murder and didn't repent. The other raped a woman. She probably destroyed the universe in her previous life. That was why she had two fathers in this life. The judge sentenced Wang Jiong to 10 years in prison for raping a woman. Raping a woman would be punished within the range of 3 to 10 years in prison. If the crime was serious, the sentence would be more than 10 years in prison, life imprisonment or death. The client wasn't killed. Naturally, it wasn't serious. But it was already good enough that he could get 10 years. Moreover, this matter wouldn't end just like that. 10 years was just a legal punishment. It didn't mean that she would let it go. Li Jianming was guilty of intentional homicide. If it wasn't for Ning Shu, the client would have died. Intentional homicide would be sentenced to death, life imprisonment, or more than 10 years in prison. Although it wasn't fatal, it caused harm. The lawyer presented the hospital's injury report. With this evidence, the sentence could be more severe. There were several cuts on the body. Some of the wounds were still very dangerous. Li Jianming's sentence was 11 years. When the verdict came out, the public gallery was in a mess. The two men were not convinced. They insisted on appealing and dissatisfied with the verdict. The two emotional men were suppressed. When they passed by Ning Shu lowered his head and whispered, "Idiot, you deserve it. Sit in prison until you die." The two men were already angry. Wasn't it just because they did this to a girl? Why should they be sentenced to more than 10 years in prison? What's wrong with me educating my daughter? When they heard Ning Shu's words, they were furious. They broke free from the court police's control and rushed over to Ning Shu. Ning Shu screamed as she covered her head and scurried away like a rat. She desperately shouted for help as the two men surrounded her. Ning Shu kicked Wang Jiong's lower body without leaving a trace. Then he injected some violent fiery sun energy. He also injected some fiery sun energy into Li Jianming's heart. Ning Shu clenched his fists and punched the two men. There were no marks on his fists. The force of his fists had already penetrated deep into his body. The scene was chaotic. The judge and court staff were stunned. The two men were beating up Ning Shu. The swarm of people were beating and tearing at Su Feng. They pulled Su Feng's hair. Su Feng was in so much pain that she couldn't fight back. Chapter 3109. The scene was chaotic. It seemed that Ning Shu was being beaten by two people, but when Ning Shu's fists landed on the two people, waves of qi directly entered their bodies. This kind of qi would not suddenly kill people, but would only make people fall into a more painful state. Su Feng was being beaten by two people from her husband's family. There were few people from her family, so they could not beat them. They probably felt that Su Feng was embarrassing, so they stood aside and did not join the fight, watching Su Feng being scratched and scratched. There were wounds on her face and body. Su Feng begged for mercy, but no one listened. Everyone was venting their anger on her. Many court policemen came in to mediate, but the scene was so chaotic that they could not pull them apart for a while. Wang Jiong and Li Jianming wanted to take this opportunity to escape, but they were held down by the police. Ning Shu was crying. After the two men were taken away, Ning Shu came out of the court and saw Su Feng being dragged out and kicked like an animal. She was thrown to the ground like a rag doll. Her hair was messy, and there were many scratches on her face. Ning Shu walked over and stood in front of Su Feng. Facing these people, he said coldly, "If any of you dare to hit me again, I will immediately hold you tight and say that you deliberately hurt me. Anyway, I am already like this. I even dared to send my own father to prison. Do you want to try? Damn girl. A girl with evil intentions like you should die. You are really thick-skinned. If you don't leave, I will call the police. Grandma, Grandpa, Grandma Wang, Grandpa." Ning Shu looked at the people present. "Anyway, I am already so rebellious. I don't mind sending more people to prison." You unreasonable people were afraid of those who did not care about their lives. Probably because Ning Shu was a ruffian now and had a fearless look as if he wanted to take revenge on society. Ordinary verbal attacks were useless against him. Ning Shu looked at these people indifferently. "You what? Do you want me to call the police? What did you do to my mother in the gallery? The court has surveillance cameras. You can take a look at it. Hitting people in the courthouse, how much contempt do you have for the country's laws? Even if I can't let you go to jail, I want you to be detained for a period of time and put you in jail. How can there be such a shameless person like you in this world? Shameless. A person like you should let your father chop you to death. Otherwise, it would be a disgrace." Ning Shu rubbed his ears. What a weak and feeble language. His heart was basically unmoved. I'm so shameless that I'm scared of myself. Ning Shu pointed at his grandmother and said, "You don't have to see who's the shameless one here. Your son is a murderer. Aren't you ashamed to have raised such a son? If I were you, I'd be dead already. You're already buried up to your neck and you still have a murderer as your son." Ning Shu moved his finger and pointed at Wang Zhiyong's mother. "Your son is a rapist, and he even raped a little girl. You've lost all 18 generations of your ancestors. Just wait for the Wang family to be laughed at to death." The two grandmothers were so angry at Ning Shu that their faces turned purple. They pointed at Ning Shu and said, "You're the shameless one. You've done such a shameless thing at such a young age. In the future, no man will want you. You won't be able to get married. Why do you care if I can get married or not? When I grow up, you old farts will be rotting in your coffins. You won't be able to tell me if I can get married or not." Ning Shu spat. "Still not leaving?" Ning Shu looked at the dazed Su Feng and said to her, "Do you still want to be beaten?" But Su Feng was like a marionette. She did whatever Ning Shu said and got up from the ground. Her expression was a little painful, probably because of the injury on her body. Ning Shu pointed at these people and said, "If you want to go to jail, then come and beat me and my mother. Anyway, we're in court. You don't have to run." Ning Shu's injuries hadn't healed yet. Now that he was testifying in court, the wounds on his body started to hurt. He walked back to the hospital, mainly because Ning Shu didn't have money. Walking back to the hospital with injuries really hurt. It was really tough to not have money. Su Feng followed behind Ning Shu step by step. Ning Shu turned around and saw Su Feng looking at him in shock. "Jing Jing?" Ning Shu said, "Come and help me. My wounds hurt." Only then did Su Feng react. She quickly hailed a taxi. There were taxis in the county. Ning Shu got into the taxi and returned to the hospital. Ning Shu lay on the hospital bed and sighed comfortably. He asked Su Feng, "What do you plan to do? We can't stay here for long. Those people will come to the hospital." As long as the two men were in jail, the people outside would think of ways to get them out. Of course, she, the victim, had to help. Even if she couldn't get them out, she could at least reduce their prison time by a few years. Therefore, the hospital wasn't a place to stay for long. It was just that the injuries on his body were recovering a little slowly. Back and forth, aggravating his injuries. Ning Shu would never let himself suffer. Since things had come to an end, of course, he had to take good care of his body. He had to love himself. Ning Shu took the small mirror by the bedside and looked at himself. Sigh, this little face. There was no color at all. It was so yellow. Sigh, it didn't look good. Su Feng's hand was shaking as she poured water. I don't know either. Jing Jing, before you did this, why didn't you tell me? Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to talk to her. What was the use of telling you? How was it possible to please both sides? Now that things had come to this, the Wang family and the Li family couldn't tolerate Su Feng. Even if she went back to her maternal family probably wouldn't let her stay. The Li family and the Wang family would come and cause trouble. There was no way to live. Moreover, a married daughter was like spilled water. Su Feng's maternal family wouldn't accept such a troublesome person. Therefore, Su Feng had no way out now. At least, she couldn't stay in this place anymore. It was very likely that she would be tortured by the two angry families. At that time, no one would be able to help her. Not only did Ning Shu hit her when she was down, he even closed the manhole cover. Of course, Mom can still continue to live here. After 10 years, when Uncle Wang comes out, Mom and Uncle Wang can talk about old times and be together again. At that time, it would be good if Wang Zhiyong didn't kill her. Su Feng was a toad. Sometimes, even if a knife was about to fall, she wouldn't move at all. Was it more difficult and painful to move than being slaughtered? Wait for 10 years. Wait for 10 years with unchanging infatuation. Su Feng was clearly aware of her situation. She wanted to blame her daughter, but facing her calm and indifferent gaze, she couldn't bring herself to reprimand her. She muttered, "Jing Jing, what should Mom do?" "What can you do? Hurry up and go home to get your household register and get your marriage certificate. If you can get a divorce, hurry up and get it. Sneak back at night. Otherwise, they will kill you. Kill you. Psst. Chapter 31:10. The law does not punish the majority. So what if Su Feng was killed by angry villagers? Her body would be thrown into the wilderness. Of course, Ning Shu was the most likely person to end up like this. Su Feng's heart trembled. She couldn't imagine that her daughter would say that. She quickly went home. But she also knew that it was possible. The two families looked at her so fiercely. After Su Feng left, Ning Shu stuffed another fasting pill into her mouth. She was injured and needed a lot of energy. She was going to leave the hospital soon. The Wang family and the Li family knew about this ward. The more these people found trouble with her, the more pain she would inflict on the two men. Their hearts would ache. Su Feng sneaked home, but she was still caught by Wang Jiong's mother. She grabbed Su Feng's bag and said, "What are you doing? Do you want to take away all the property at home?" Su Feng felt bitter. How could she have any property? Even if she had, Wang Jiong had gambled it all away. Wang Jiong's mother beat Su Feng up. Su Feng ran away in a panic like a dog. Facing other people's insults, Su Feng didn't even dare to refute. She cried silently. She was frightened all the way. When she returned to the ward and saw her daughter on the bed, she was relieved. She probably felt that the man was unreliable and the daughter was now the one she could rely on. Ning Shu felt that this was a good thing. As long as Su Feng listened to him in the future, it would be fine. Su Feng's life was dominated. She didn't dare to make her own decisions. As long as someone asked her to do something, it would be fine. If I don't dominate you, I'll be sorry for your docility. Ning Shu sat up slowly and asked, "Did you bring the documents?" Su Feng quickly took out the documents from the cloth bag. Ning Shu said, "Think about it. If you want a divorce, hurry up and get it. Then we'll leave here." At the same time, he could change his identity for Su Feng. To be honest, keeping Su Feng by his side was like carrying a bomb. Even if she left, her heart might soften in the future and she might go back to her hometown to take a look. He couldn't make the decision on big matters, but Su Feng was the one who could stir up trouble on small matters. If it wasn't for the fact that the client was young and needed a guardian, Ning Shu wouldn't have cared about Su Feng. After all, Su Feng didn't use her soul power. However, Su Feng was still the client's mother. The client had no source of income and needed Su Feng to support him in the future. When the client reached adulthood, she would be able to survive on her own. At that time, she would provide for Su Feng. The mother and daughter would depend on each other for survival, and they would be able to live a prosperous life. She was just afraid that Su Feng would suddenly lose her mind. Su Feng held the marriage certificate in her hand. "Are you really getting a divorce?" Ning Shu, then wait for Uncle Wang to come out. After 10 years, Su Feng would be in her 40s or even 50s by the time she came out. Moreover, he didn't know what Li Jianming and Wang Jiong would look like after they were released from prison. Su Feng said, "Jing Jing, I'll listen to you." Su Feng's divorce went very smoothly, and Ning Shu took advantage of the situation to apply for identity protection and opened another household. This household could only accommodate the two of them. They said that when the two men were released in the future, they would kill the mother and daughter. Not only those people, but also the people around them would beat and scold them. They wanted to move their household registration away. This procedure was a bit complicated, and they had to wait for a while as all kinds of procedures had to be completed. Ning Shu was discharged from the hospital and squeezed into a small hotel with Su Feng to wait for the examination. She was discharged to prevent those people from coming to her and asking her to do something to reduce the punishment of the two men. It wasn't that she was afraid of these people, but that she couldn't be bothered to argue with them. If they couldn't find the two men, they would be anxious to death. No matter how they appealed or made a fuss, the result wouldn't change. They might even make the situation worse because of the waste of legal resources. They were so unrepentant and still wanted to reduce their sentence. Dream on. Moreover, the Wang and Li families were just ordinary families. They didn't know any big shots and didn't have as much money as gold or silver mines. The chances of them turning the tables were zero. Su Feng didn't ask about what Ning Shu did. She guessed that there was someone in front of her who planned everything. Su Feng hid under the wings and had already regarded Ning Shu as her pillar of support. She couldn't wait for Wang Zhiyong for 10 years, and she couldn't continue living in the same place as before. Moving to another place with her daughter was the only way now. Her daughter said that she would open a household and the head of the household would be her. Su Feng didn't say anything. As for changing her name, Su Feng only hesitated for a moment before agreeing. She was a little melancholic. Once she changed her name, she would no longer be the daughter of the Su family. Ning Shu ignored Su Feng's melancholy and went to the detention center to take a look. Wang Zhiyong and Li Jianming were still in the detention center of the police station and hadn't been officially sent to prison. When the various procedures were completed, this matter would be settled. Therefore, they usually had to fight for this period of time. They should appeal and hire a lawyer. The two families wanted to appeal, but first they had to hire a lawyer. When the lawyer saw that the case was settled, there was no need to fight. Even if they appealed, the court would reject it. Even if the court didn't reject the appeal, it would only make the situation worse. Why did things turn out like this? If they could get the forgiveness of the victims, things wouldn't turn out like this. They even beat up the victims in court. This, even if the lawyer had a glib tongue, he couldn't say the truth. After getting the forgiveness of the victims, these people started to look for Ning Shu and Su Feng. They wanted Ning Shu to write a love letter to express that he had forgiven the two of them. But there was no one at the hospital, and the two of them didn't go home. So, this group of people went to Su Feng's parents' house. Su Feng had nowhere to go and would definitely go back to her parents' house. But there was no one at her parents' house, and a conflict broke out. One side wanted to hand over the two of them, and the other side didn't have anyone to hand over. It was normal for them to fight. After searching everywhere, the two families realized that the two of them had run away. Now, they didn't know where they went. How could they find them? Ning Shu strolled around the police station and looked at the two people in the detention center. These two people were her fathers. Looking at the two of them, Ning Shu felt that it was still too early. After dealing with these two people, the next problem was money. The world was so big, and without money, one couldn't go anywhere. Ning Shu returned to the hotel, and Su Feng quickly said to Ning Shu, "Jing Jing, I bought you some food. Hurry up and eat." Ning Shu didn't stand on ceremony and started eating. She felt that it was a little funny. Now, Su Feng's attitude towards her had a hint of flattery. Did she need to flatter her? What was Su Feng afraid of? She treated a child as her pillar of support. She looked like an adult and was in her 30s, but she was still very young mentally. Men were the pillars of the family. Now, there was no man to support Su Feng mentally. She could only find someone to be her pillar of support, even though Ning Shu was a child. She could also find an excuse for herself. It was all for her daughter. Chapter 31:11. Maybe in the future, he would be able to change the reason for leaving his home to his daughter. If he didn't find a reason, he wouldn't be able to continue living. So what if he said it was for himself? Su Feng picked up some food for Ning Shu and asked cautiously, "Jing Jing, are we leaving after we get the documents?" "Yeah, do you want to go and see the two fathers?" Ning Shu asked. "We can see them, but we can't reveal any information. Otherwise, when they get out of prison, they will come and kill us." "Ka?" Ning Shu used a knife and slit his neck. Su Feng was so scared that her face turned yellow. Su Feng didn't have much money on her and she had to go to a foreign place to live. It was very scary and she was very afraid of the future. Su Feng was worried and the two men at the police station were causing trouble. Both of them said that their bodies hurt a lot and they wanted to go to the hospital. Li Jianming said that his entire body hurt as if he was being stabbed by needles or punched a few times. His lungs felt as if someone was squeezing them and he couldn't breathe at all. He felt like he was suffocating. Wang Zhiyong covered his lower body and said that it hurt a lot. It was as if he couldn't feel the existence of that piece of meat. It was painful and numb. After the pain, he couldn't feel anything at all. He couldn't stand up either. It was as if he was paralyzed. He couldn't feel the existence of his legs. He couldn't feel anything when he touched or pinched. He was so scared. Was he going to die? Sometimes, a man's confidence came from these 2 pieces of meat. If 2 pieces of meat couldn't do it, it was enough to destroy a man's confidence. Wang Zhiyong never felt that he was wrong for doing that with his stepdaughter. He was a normal man and it wasn't like he did it with his own daughter. Even if he went to jail because of this, Wang Zhiyong wasn't that scared. Now that he couldn't do it, Wang Zhiyong was panicking. The 2 of them were rolling on the ground in pain. Of course, they had to be sent to the hospital. Li Jianming's body was fine and there was no pain. The report was normal. Even if there was a slight abnormality, it was just a liver problem. Li Jianming loved to drink. The doctor said that he was fine and it made Li Jianming angry. How can I be fine? My entire body hurts. It hurts a lot. Did you check seriously? I'm in pain. However, after checking again, it was still the same as before. There was a slight problem with the liver. As for the pain in the body, it was completely undetectable. Moreover, the point of pain was not fixed. One moment, it would be pain in the heart, the next moment, it would be pain in the stomach, and the next moment, it would be pain in the head. This was completely cheating. The doctor and the police were a little impatient. It was obvious that he was trying to avoid punishment. One moment it hurt, the next it hurt. How could it be possible? If you say it hurts, then it hurts. The test results are normal, and you still want to deny it? Dream on. Li Jianming kept shouting, "It's really painful. It's really painful." He was really in pain. Why didn't anyone believe him? He felt as if a needle had pierced into his body, into his muscles. It was so painful that his entire body was trembling. But these doctors and police officers looked on coldly as they watched him in pain. Even if it was just some medicine, some painkillers. Li Jianming asked the doctor for painkillers, but he couldn't take them casually. Taking them casually could cause problems, so the doctor didn't prescribe them for him. Why would he feel pain for no reason when there was no pathological change in his body? A doctor said, "Is this pain that you're imagining? There's nothing wrong with your body." Imagining. Sometimes, it wasn't the human body that was in pain, but the person himself. It was so painful that it seemed like he couldn't stand it. In fact, his body wasn't in pain. The human brain was so magical. Li Jianming stared angrily. What the hell? Was he imagining that his head and body hurt? Was he imagining that his entire body hurt? He wasn't sick. It was clearly his body that was in pain. These quack doctors. People tended to be irritable when they were in pain. Li Jianming grabbed the doctor's collar and was about to hit him, but he was stopped by the police. The doctor said, "Take him to the neurology department for identification." He was so irritable and he loved imagining things. Could he be crazy? The police were speechless. If he was diagnosed as crazy, then he would be acquitted. Crazy people weren't guilty of killing people. Should they do a psychiatric evaluation on this criminal? They still had to write a report. How troublesome. The doctor gave Li Jianming a tranquilizer. Li Jianming, who was asleep, didn't feel any pain, but he would still feel pain when he woke up. Compared to Li Jianming, who couldn't find the reason but was in pain all over his body, Wang Zhiyong found the reason. Wang Zhiyong's cavernous body didn't have smooth blood flow and was now in a necrotic state. What cavernous body? It was because of the lack of blood flow and the tissue was now necrotic. How should he deal with it? He could either cut it off. Even if he kept it, it would only be a toilet tool and wouldn't have any other use. And the results of the examination were very strange. The small blood vessels and nerves seemed to have been cut off by something or burned by something. The blood vessels were stuck together and were in a state of non-circulation. This resulted in a situation where there was no connection between the nerves and blood supply. He came to the hospital early. Although it was guaranteed that the thing was complete, it was useless. Police, what was this? Retribution? He raped his stepdaughter, and then his little brother was useless. He felt that women were poisonous and couldn't be touched. Wang Zhiyong, who had undergone surgery, woke up. He heard that his little brother was dying. He touched it and it was in great pain. There were wounds all over it left from the surgery. He didn't believe that his little brother was dying. He didn't have any children. How could the Wang family's bloodline be cut off? More importantly, if he couldn't do it, he would be laughed at. How could he be masculine? Would he be like a eunuch? Clips. Humans especially cherished the things on their body. Their facial features, limbs, and even their third leg. After such a thing happened, they naturally had to wait until Wang Xiong was discharged from the hospital before the court could carry out the trial. They also had to inform his family. The Wang family and the Li family came to the hospital. When they saw their sons in such a state, they felt that the police must have mistreated their sons. They must have been treated inhumanely in the detention center. These people seemed to have found a breakthrough. The two families went to the police station every day to cause a ruckus. They wanted to make this jail time disappear. In the beginning, the police would still explain that there was no mistreatment. They even pulled up the surveillance cameras. But these people didn't listen. They just wanted to get him out. Who cared what the truth was? Anyway, something happened to him at the police station. They had to take responsibility. Later, the police allowed these people to cause a ruckus. They had evidence in their hands. So what if these people petitioned? The police station didn't do anything wrong. Why did they have to cause a ruckus at the police station? If they had the ability, they could go to the court. The court would decide. Did they think that the police station was easy to bully? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.